And now, please welcome Student Government Vice President and Economics Major, Chloe Vance, our freshman student representative. A wave of applause filled the auditorium. I was standing by a fire exit in the back, stifling a yawn, as a junior roped into maintaining order by my academic advisor. This kind of convocation ceremony was a colossal waste of life. Chloe Vance walked onto the stage, caught in a single spotlight. Even from this distance, you could see she'd earned her reputation as the campus queen. A waterfall of jet black hair, skin that practically glowed under the lights, and a tailored white dress that traced the line of slender waist. Distinguished faculty, administrators, and my fellow students. Her voice was cool and crisp, with a subtle undercurrent of arrogance. I was looking down at my phone when a sudden commotion rippled through the audience. I glanced up to see a green laser beam dancing recklessly across Chloe's face. "Who's the jerk?" I muttered, squinting to find the source. There, in the third row on the left, a freshman with bleach blonde hair was waving a laser pointer, a stupid grin plastered on his face. Chloe's speech faltered. She raised a hand to shield her eyes, her expression a mix of anger and humiliation. The MC hurried forward, but the laser kept chasing her relentlessly. I sighed and started moving quickly along the wall. The advisor told me to keep the peace. This had to count. "Hey man, hand over the laser pointer," I said, leaning in behind the blonde kid. He glanced back. "What's it to you?" I reached for the pointer, and he shot up, shoving me hard. The clatter of us hitting the seats drew a chorus of gasps. On stage, Chloe had stopped talking completely. "Security! Where's security?" The MC yelled in the mic, flustered. Seeing things were escalating, Blondie tried a bolt. I grabbed his wrist. "Not so fast." In the struggle, we slammed into a metal display stand in the aisle. With a deafening clang, the stand toppled toward the stage, crashing right into a speaker at the edge. Chloe let out a cry of alarm. The falling speaker had snagged a cable near her feet. She stumbled, then fell off the 3-foot-high stage. The entire hall erupted. Forgetting Blondie, I sprinted to the front of the stage. Chloe was on the ground, her knees scraped, and her white dress smudged with dust. The perfect, delicate features of her face were twisted in pain. "Are you okay? I'll take you to the health center," I said, offering her my hand. She looked up at me, her eyes sharp enough to kill. "Did you do that on purpose?" "What?" "I was just trying to stop that. Get away from me." She slapped my hand away and tried to stand, only to collapse back down as a sharp pain shot through her ankle. Ignoring her protests, I bent down and scooped her into my arms. She was as light as a feather and smelled faintly of jasmine. "Put me down," she struggled, drawing even more stairs. "Stop moving, unless you want to fall again," I warned in a low voice, striding toward the auditorium exit. She finally went still, but her body was as stiff as a board. I could feel the eyes of other students on us, a mix of shock and envy, and saw more than a few phones raised to capture the moment. Just as we reached the doors, a black Mercedes screeched to a halt at the bottom of the steps. A man in a sharp suit hurried out, flanked by 2 others who looked like professional bodyguards. "Chloe." The man's face was dark. "What happened?" "Dad." Chloe's voice was suddenly thick with tears. This person made me fall off the stage. My eyes widened. "Wait, that's not what happened." The man shot me a glacial look that shut me up instantly. He took Chloe from me and handed her to one of the bodyguards. "Take Miss Vance to the hospital for a full workup." Then he turned back to me. "You, come with me." 10 minutes later, I was sitting in a lavish office in the administration building, across from Chloe's father, Marcus Vance, head of the Vance Corporation. He was flipping through my student file, his brow furrowed. "Ethan Cole." "Cole?" He looked up suddenly. "Are you related to Eleanor Cole?" My heart skipped a beat. "She's my mother." Marcus Vance's expression shifted. "I thought you looked familiar." "How is your mother?" "She's sick. Needs long-term treatment," I said curtly, wondering where this was going. He was silent for a moment, then said, "I have a proposition." He slid a document across the desk. The title read, "Personal Service Agreement." "Sign this, and I'll cover all of your mother's medical expenses. That includes the new experimental treatments from Europe." I scanned the terms, my sense of disbelief growing. This is a contract to be Chloe's glorified errand boy for 3 years? Pickups, drop-offs, on-call 24/7. "You can think of it as a personal assistant," Marcus said, steepling his fingers. "For what I understand, your mother's condition is serious. Your insurance won't cover those specialty drugs." My hands were shaking. The contract was a complete assault on my dignity, but the image of my mother's increasingly gaunt face flashed through my mind. "Why me?" I asked, my voice hoarse. Marcus Vance smiled faintly. "First, you can handle yourself physically. You can protect Chloe. Second, your background is clean. And third, you paused. I owe your mother a favor. Before I could ask what favor, the door was thrown open. Chloe limped in, her ankle wrapped in a bandage. Dad, I don't need a bodyguard, she fumed, then turned her glare on me. Especially not this guy who humiliated me. Chloe, don't be difficult. The company is dealing with some sensitive projects right now. I'm worried about your safety. I can take care of myself. While they argued, my eyes were fixed on the contract. It was the solution to my biggest problem, but the price was 3 years of my pride. I'll sign it, I said, cutting them off. Chloe stared at me in disbelief. Are you insane? I ignored her, picked up the pen, and signed my name. Marcus Vance smiled, satisfied. He pulled a check from a drawer. Here's a 3-month advance for the medical bills. Chloe snatched the check, glanced at the amount, and scoffed. So that's how it is. You'd do anything for money, wouldn't you? She stepped in front of me. She was a full head shorter, but carried herself like a queen surveying a peasant. Since you signed the contract, you'll follow my rules. First, on campus, you will not come within 10 feet of me unless I say so. Second, you will not tell anyone about our arrangement. Third, you will do whatever I ask, no questions asked. She casually tossed the check on the floor. Now pick it up. I clenched my fists, my nails digging into my palms. As I bent down to retrieve that piece of paper, I told myself, for Mom, it's just 3 years. I can take it. But I didn't realize that bending over once was just the beginning of 3 years of bowing down. My alarm blared at 5 in the morning. I nearly threw my phone against the wall. Bleary-eyed, I read the text from Chloe. Be downstairs at the women's dorm at 6 a.m. sharp. 1 minute late, and I dock $1,000 from your pay. Pay? I thought with a bitter laugh. The advance check had been wired directly to the hospital. I hadn't seen a dime. The monthly salary in the contract was just a number Marcus Vance had put in to make it look legitimate. I splashed my face with cold water and took a quick shower. In the mirror, my eyes were shot with red. I'd been up until 2 in the morning handling my mother's hospital transfer. At 5:50 a.m., I was standing under a sycamore tree outside Eastman Hall, the women's dorm. The early autumn breeze was already sharp with cold. The dorm matron eyed me suspiciously until I held up my student ID and explained I was waiting for a classmate. At 6 o'clock on the dot, Chloe emerged. She was wearing a pale, gray knit dress, her long hair loosely pinned up, with a few stray strands framing her porcelain neck. In the morning light, she looked like she was edged in gold. Morning, I said, stepping forward. She walked right past me without a glance, her hair trailing that faint jasmine scent. I fell in a step behind her, maintaining the contractually obligated 10-foot distance. The campus was nearly empty, and our footsteps echoed on the stone path. What's the plan for today? I ventured. Chloe stopped so abruptly, I almost ran into her. First, don't speak to me unless spoken to. Second, don't ask questions. And third, she narrowed her eyes, return these 3 books to the library, then go to the East Campus dining hall and get me breakfast. She pulled 3 heavy, hardcover textbooks from her bag and shoved them into my arms. Principles of Western Economics, Financial Markets and Institutions, Investment Banking. Each one felt like a brick. East Campus, I blurted out. Our classes are on West Campus. That's a 20-minute walk across. Rule number 3, she said, holding up 3 delicate fingers. You will do whatever I ask, no questions asked. Satisfied, Chloe turned and continued on her way. I followed behind, laden with the books, feeling like a walking bookshelf. At 7:40 a.m., I finally sprinted back to the business school building from East Campus, completely out of breath. Chloe was already seated in the classroom. I placed a soy milk and breakfast burrito on her desk. She glanced at it and wrinkled her nose. It's cold. I ran for 20 minutes. Get me another one. She pushed the food away and pulled a sleek thermos from her bag. This time I want a smoothie and an everything bagel with lox from the West Campus Cafe. My stomach grumbled in protest. I hadn't eaten breakfast yet. Chloe seemed to hear it, a smirk playing on her lips. What? You haven't eaten? Before I could nod, she added, not my problem. Go. A few students in the classroom were already whispering and pointing their phones in our direction. I took a deep breath, picked up the cold breakfast, and turned to leave. By the time I got back, class had already started. The professor shot me a disapproving glare. I mumbled an apology and placed the hot food on Chloe's desk. This time, she didn't even look at it, completely focused on taking notes. I retreated to the back of the classroom, my stomach twisting in knots. That was only day 1. Over the next 2 weeks, Chloe's requests grew increasingly absurd. I left my sheet music in the practice room. Go get it, I need it for my next class. I spent half an hour searching an empty practice room for sheet music that never existed. I spilled coffee on my laptop. Go buy a bottle of water so I can clean it. By the time I returned, She'd already used a classmate's water and then blamed me for being too slow. I'm suddenly craving a mango crepe cake from the Gilded Spoon in the South End. I want to see it on my desk before class ends. I skipped class, took an Uber, got a speeding ticket on the way back, and she took one bite before declaring it was too sweet and throwing it away. Every day, I returned to my dorm feeling completely drained. Another day playing the Beast of Burden, my roommate Kevin asked, swiveling away from his computer. I collapsed onto my bed, too tired to even lift a finger. Dude, I'm telling you, just quit. This is insane. I stared at the ceiling without a word. He didn't get it. That advance check meant my mom was on the new imported drug, and the doctor said her tumor markers were showing a significant drop. For that, I do more than run errands. I'd bark like a dog if I had to. Friday afternoon, the sky was a heavy, bruised gray. I just left the library when my phone vibrated. A text from Chloe. Get to the 3rd academic building. Now. 10 minutes later, I found her in the hallway, chatting with her best friend. Chloe was in a light blue dress that made her skin look like snow. I recognized the girl next to her, Lily Chun, the head of the Student Arts Committee. Ah, your personal assistant has arrived, Lily said with a sly wink. Chloe rolled her eyes. Don't use such a fancy term. She turned to me. I'm craving boba. 1 cheese foam strawberry, light sugar, no ice. 1 taro bubble tea, warm, and 1 brown sugar pearl milk tea, regular everything. I pulled out my phone to take a note. All large. Of course not. Chloe gave me a saccharine smile. The cheese foam strawberry is from Chatter and Tea on East Campus. The taro is from Royal Tea on the North Side Commercial Street. And the brown sugar is from the alley by the Southgate Food Court. I looked up at her. Those 3 shops are in completely opposite directions. And she tilted her head. Chloe, it's about to rain, Lily whispered. That's the best part. Chloe pulled a compact umbrella from her bag and handed it to me. And remember, don't get the drinks wet. The first drops of rain started to fall the moment I stepped outside the building. By the time I collected all 3 cups of boba, over 2 hours had passed. My jeans were soaked, my shirt was stuck to my skin, and my hair was dripping into my eyes. Chloe was at a rehearsal in the Student Activity Center. The entire orchestra went silent for a second when I walked in, looking like a drowned rat clutching 3 cups of tea. What took you so long? Chloe frowned. I placed the drinks on the table in front of her. The shop on East Campus had a long line. She inspected each cup, complaining that the cheese foam wasn't thick enough on the strawberry tea and that the pearls in the brown sugar were a little hard. In the end, she kept only the taro tea and pushed the other 2 toward me. Throw these out. If you weren't going to drink them, why did you make me buy them? The words slipped out before I could stop them. Chloe looked up, a flicker of amusement in her dark eyes. Because I felt like it. Rule number 3, remember? I picked up the 2 nearly full cups and turned to leave. As I walked out, I heard the violinist whisper, Chloe, don't you think you're being a little too hard on him? He brought it on himself. Chloe's voice carried clearly. Someone who'd do anything for money doesn't deserve any sympathy. The rain was still coming down. I stood outside the activity center, suddenly having no desire to go back to my dorm. I ducked into the nearby dining hall, found a corner table, and mechanically started drinking the rejected brown sugar boba. Hey, is this seat taken? I looked up. Lily Chan was standing there with a tray of food. Go ahead, I said, shifting in my seat. She sat down, studying me with curiosity. You really want all 3 shops? What do you think? Lily shook her head. Chloe's put a few bodyguards through this kind of treatment before. None of them lasted more than 3 days. I bit down on the straw. She does this often. Only to special people, Lily said meaningfully. With regular students, she's actually very polite. I nearly choked on a pearl. You're calling this special treatment? Her dad has assigned her a lot of bodyguards, and she's driven every single one of them away, Lily said, lowering her voice. Mr. Vance is extremely protective of her, ever since her mom. What happened to her mom? Lily clammed up, suddenly alert. You should probably ask Chloe about that yourself. We ate in silence for a bit. Then Lily said, there's a thread about you on the campus subreddit. About me? Yeah. Chloe Vance's new lapdog. A live blog. It's been going for 2 weeks. I pulled out my phone, and with Lily's guidance, I found the post. The original poster had meticulously documented my daily humiliations at Chloe's hands, complete with candid photos, me sprinting across campus with a stack of books, me delivering boba in the rain, me getting poked awake by Chloe with a pen when I dozed off in the dining hall. The comment section was a goldmine of ridicule. Is this some new breed of simp? Looks like Princess Chloe has a new toy. Gotta give the guy credit for endurance. He's lasted 2 weeks. As I was scrolling, a new reply popped up. Heard this guy's getting paid for it. Professional simp, charges by the hour. The user ID was River Moon Watcher, with a blurry profile picture. "Don't pay any attention to them," Lily said. "They have nothing better to do." I locked my phone. It doesn't matter, and it really didn't. Compared to my mother's medical bills, a little online mockery was nothing. By the way, Lily said before she left, Chloe's piano recital is tomorrow. 3 o'clock in the music hall. She didn't tell you, did she? I shook my head. Make sure you're there. Sit in the last row, Lily winked. And don't tell her I told you. The next afternoon, I arrived at the music hall 20 minutes early. The audience, mostly arts department students and faculty, was trickling in. As Lily suggested, I found a seat in the corner of the last row. When Chloe walked onto the stage in a long white gown, the entire hall fell silent. She sat at the piano, her long fingers hovering over the keys. She took a deep breath, and then she began to play. It was Chopin's Nocturne in E-flat major. I don't know anything about classical music, but I could feel the sorrow woven into the melody, like someone crying alone in the dead of night. This was a side of Chloe I'd never seen. How could the spoiled, arrogant princess I knew produce such profound emotion? When the piece ended, the hall erupted in thunderous applause. Chloe stood and bowed, her eyes scanning the audience. Suddenly, her gaze locked onto the back row. She saw me, and her expression instantly turned to ice. After the performance, I waited for her at the backstage exit, as usual. When Chloe came out, she'd changed back in her regular clothes, her face a thundercloud. "Who told you to come here?" she demanded. Were you following me? That's not in the contract." Her voice was laced with a dangerous edge. Thinking fast, I said, "Mr. Vance requires me to document all of your public activities, including performances." Chloe narrowed her eyes, trying to gauge if I was telling the truth. Finally, she scoffed. "Next time you act on your own, I'll have my dad dock your pay." She turned and walked away, and I fell in a step behind her. After a short distance, she stopped abruptly. "Do you know anything about the piano?" "No." "Then why did you stay for the whole thing?" I thought for a moment. It was beautiful, especially that one piece, the really sad one. Chloe's expression softened almost imperceptibly. The Nocturne was my mother's favorite. Her voice was quiet, almost a whisper to herself. It was the first time I'd ever heard her mention her family. Before I could respond, she quickened her pace. "Hurry up. I have a 6 o'clock appointment." That night, around 7, when I finally finished my duties and got back to my dorm, I found a plastic bag hanging on my doorknob. Inside were 2 boxes of cold medicine and a note for cold prevention. "Don't get Chloe sick. Ed." I held the boxes in my hand. Suddenly, the rain I'd been caught in today didn't seem so cold after all. The next day was Saturday, my day off according to the contract. I went to the hospital early to be with my mother during her checkup. She looked much better than she had the week before. She could even get out of bed and walk a little on her own. "The new medicine is working wonders," the doctor said with a smile. "Keep this up, and we can consider a full evaluation next month." I let out a breath. I didn't know. I was holding and tucked the blanket around my mom. She touched my face. "You've gotten thinner. Is a part-time job that hard?" "It's fine. Just running a few errands," I said, trying to sound casual. My mother suddenly lowered her voice. "That, Mr. Vance, how's he treating you?" I froze. "Mom, you know Marcus Vance?" Her eyes flickered. "We had some business dealings a long time ago." "Did he mention me?" "Just that he owes you a favor." He didn't elaborate. I asked, curious, what was it about? My mother shook her head, clearly not wanting to talk about it. "It's all in the past. Anyway, be careful working for the Vance family." "There." She broke into a coughing fit, and I quickly handed her a glass of water. The subject was dropped. Sunday night, I was in my dorm trying to catch up on homework when my phone rang. It was Chloe. "Get to the Velvet Note Jazz Club in 20 minutes and pick me up." Her voice was slurred, the background noise loud. I glanced at the time, 11:30 p.m. The campus gates locked at midnight. "It's late. Just get here." She hung up. I cursed under my breath, grabbed my jacket, and bolted out the door. The Velvet Note was a famous jazz club downtown, ridiculously expensive and mostly frequented by trust fund kids and tourists. By the time the taxi dropped me off, it was already 11:50. I pushed open the heavy wooden door into a dimly lit, smoke-filled room. A band was playing on stage, but my attention was fixed on a corner booth. Chloe was there, a man in a suit with his arm around her shoulder, pouring her another drink. I strode over. "Chloe, it's time to go back to campus." Chloe looked up, her makeup heavier than usual, her eyes hazy. "Well, look who it is. My assistant." The man in the suit looked me up and down. "Who's this?" "The babysitter my dad hired," Chloe sneered, taking another gulp of her drink. I reached for her arm. "The gates are about to close." She yanked her arm away. "Don't touch me. I'm not going back tonight. I want a drink." The man tightened his grip on her. That's right, let the lady drink. Hey, handsome one, join us. I recognized him as a local playboy, famous for flashing his wealth and chasing women on social media. My face was stone. Chloe, if you don't leave now, I'm calling Mr. Vance. That was the trigger. Chloe shot to her feet and slammed her glass on the floor. All you ever do is use my dad against me. Fine, let's go. She stumbled toward the exit, and I rushed to follow. The moment we were outside, the cool night air hit her, and she doubled over, vomiting. I held her steady, patting her back. When she was done, she sagged against me, completely limp. I hailed a taxi and managed to get her into the back seat. Address? The driver asked. It was only then I realized I didn't know where she lived off campus. Her address was in the contract, but my copy had been confiscated by my advisor under a confidentiality agreement. Stratton University, Westgate, I said, having no other choice. Chloe was mumbling in the back seat. No, not the dorm. The Waterford Residences. The driver raised an eyebrow. Pricey neighborhood. When we arrived at the Waterford Residences, I half-carried Chloe out of the car. The doorman saw her and immediately buzzed us through, even helpfully telling me which building was hers. In the elevator, Chloe fell asleep on my shoulder, her breath smelling of alcohol. I gently patted her cheek. Chloe, wake up. Where are your keys? She fumbled in her pocket, and I pulled out a key fob. After opening the door, I fumbled for a light switch. The sight that met my eyes was staggering. A massive, 2,000-square-foot apartment with minimalist modern decor and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the glittering Charles River. I helped Chloe to the bedroom, where she collapsed onto the bed and didn't move. I hesitated for a moment, then took off her shoes and jacket and pulled the comforter over her. As I was about to leave, a picture frame on the nightstand caught my eye. It was a photo of a much younger Chloe with a beautiful woman, both of them sitting at a piano, smiling radiantly. The woman looked so much like Chloe. It had to be her mother. I quietly closed the bedroom door and sat on the living room couch. The contract stipulated that I had to ensure her safe return home. I decided to crash here for the night. At 3 a.m, a scream jolted me awake. I burst into the bedroom. Chloe was sitting up in bed, gasping for air, her face streaked with tears. A nightmare? I asked, turning on the bedside lamp. She looked at me blankly, then suddenly threw herself into my arms, trembling. Mom, I dreamed about Mom again. I froze, my hands hovering in the air, unsure if I should touch her. The Chloe in my arms was soft and fragile, a world away from the arrogant princess I knew during the day. A few minutes later, she seemed to come to her senses and abruptly pushed me away. What are you doing here? You were drunk. I brought you home. I took a step back. The contract says, get out. She pointed at the door, her voice shaking. Get out right now. I backed out of the room. The moment I closed the door, I heard a muffled sob from inside. The next morning, I woke up on the couch to find a blanket draped over me. On the coffee table was a breakfast sandwich and a note. Eat this and leave the key under the flower pot by the door. Don't bother me today. See, the handwriting was neat and elegant, just like Chloe herself. I chewed on the sandwich, thinking about last night. The Chloe who played the piano with such feeling, who cried out in her nightmares. Perhaps that was the real her. The daytime tantrums and stubbornness were just a protective shell. My phone vibrated. A text from my academic advisor. Ethan, I need to see you in my office at 3 this afternoon. It's about your special work arrangement. I had a bad feeling about this. Sure enough, the meeting confirmed my fears. Spread across my advisor's desk were printouts from the campus subreddit, the Chloe Vance's new lapdog thread. The university has become aware of these unusual circumstances, my advisor said, pushing up his glasses. Some faculty members have reported that you frequently skip class to run errands for Miss Vance, which is severely impacting your academic performance. I remained silent. We are aware of the Vance family's influence, but this kind of private employment relationship, if it becomes public, could be damaging to the university's reputation. His tone was serious. Do you understand what I'm saying? I'll be more careful, I said. It's not a matter of being careful, he sighed. The dean has suggested that you terminate this arrangement. However, if you insist on continuing, he handed me an application form. You'll need to file this officially with the university and be subject to periodic review. I took the form, a cynical smile playing on my lips. Filing? Review? More like they wanted a piece of the pie. I'll think about it, I said, getting up to leave. Walking out of the administration building, the autumn sun was so bright it made my eyes hurt. My phone rang again. This time it was Chloe. Tonight, 7 o'clock. I need you to go somewhere with me. I texted back. Where? A charity gala. My father's orders. Where something formal. Pick me up at the Waterford at 6:30. I looked down at my faded jeans and flannel shirt and sighed. Formal? The only suit I owned was one I bought for my high school graduation. It was already a little tight. Back at the dorm, I pulled out the dark blue suit. The cuffs were frayed. Kevin poked his head down from the top bunk. Got a hot date? Accompanying Her Highness to a gala, I said with a grimace. Think this will pass? Kevin jumped down and looked me over. The suit's a little worn, but you've got the build for it. He dug through his closet and tossed a dark tie at me. Borrow this. Don't get it dirty. At 6:30, I rang Chloe's doorbell. When the door opened, I caught my breath. She was wearing a floor-length burgundy gown, her black hair swept up, revealing the elegant line of her neck and collarbones. Her makeup was flawless, like she'd stepped off the cover of a magazine. She looked me up and down, a frown creasing her brow, but surprisingly, she didn't say anything cutting. Come in. The driver will be here any minute. I followed her inside and saw another man standing in the living room, Marcus Vance. Mr. Vance, I nodded. He walked over with a smile and clapped me on the shoulder. Chloe tells me you've been performing well. I shot a surprised look at Chloe, who was busy arranging her clutch, pretending not to hear. There will be several important clients at the gala tonight. Your main job is to keep an eye on Chloe. Don't let her drink, Marcus said in a low voice. The last time she got drunk, it nearly caused a major incident. I nodded, remembering her drunken state and her nightmare. A stretch limo was waiting downstairs. Once inside, Chloe deliberately kept her distance, staring out the window without a word. I stole a glance at her profile, a perfect, distant silhouette against the twilight. The gala was held in the ballroom of a five-star hotel. Crystal chandeliers glittered above a sea of designer clothes and clinking champagne glasses. Chloe was the center of attention the moment we walked in, constantly stopped by people for pleasantries. I trailed behind her like a shadow, taking the wine glasses she handed me, which, as we'd agreed, I had discreetly swapped for sparkling grape juice. Chloe, darling, and who is this? A woman in a couture suit asked, her eyes on me. My classmate from the university, Chloe smiled. I brought him along to see how the other half lives. He's a handsome young man, the woman said with a meaningful smile. Does your father know? Chloe's smile tightened. Aunt Lisa, you're teasing me. While Chloe was in the powder room, I stepped out into the hallway to stretch my shoulders. The place was suffocating. Everyone wore a perfect mask, their polite conversation laced with hidden agendas. Ethan, a male voice said from behind me. I turned to see a tall guy leaning against a pillar, swirling a glass of champagne. He wore a perfectly tailored charcoal gray suit, his bow tie immaculate, a half-smile playing on his lips. Do I know you? I asked warily. Bradley Morgan, Vice President of Student Government at Stratton. He took a step closer. I've heard so much about you. Chloe's personal escort. I frowned. Can I help you? Relax, he chuckled. I'm just curious. How much does one have to pay for such loyal service? I stared at him coldly. You're River Moon Watcher from the subreddit, aren't you? Bradley raised an eyebrow. Clever. But you've got one thing wrong. I'm not targeting you. I'm concerned about Chloe. His voice suddenly turned icy. She's too naive, easily taken advantage of by people with ulterior motives. Like me. Like you. He took a sip of champagne. I don't know what game you're playing to get close to her, but I'll be watching you. Bradley, are you meddling in things that don't concern you again? Chloe's voice came from behind me. She walked up and looped her arm through mine naturally. Ethan, let's go. Dad's looking for us. The color drained from Bradley's face. Chloe, I was just... Are we on a first-name basis? Chloe cut him off coldly. Please call me Chloe. She pulled me away. Once we were out of earshot, she immediately let go of my arm, wiping her fingers as if she'd touched something dirty. Don't get the wrong idea. That was just for show. I shrugged, unfazed. That guy Bradley, your ex-boyfriend, a wannabe, hasn't taken a hint since I rejected him, Chloe said with a frown. His father is a city official, and he has business dealings with my dad, so it's hard to be too blunt. After the gala, Marcus Vance had to leave early for an emergency meeting, telling me to take Chloe home. The ride back was unusually quiet. Tired? I asked. She shook her head, then suddenly said, What did Bradley say to you? He warned me not to have any ulterior motives concerning you. Chloe let out a small laugh. How thoughtful of him. She turned to me, her eyes sharp. Well, do you have any ideas about me that you shouldn't? I met her gaze directly. That's not in the contract. She seemed taken aback by my answer and turned away. It better not be. The car stopped at the Waterford residences. Just before she got out, Chloe said, Starting tomorrow, you don't have to follow me around every day. My heart sank. Is Mr. Vance terminating the contract? No. She shook her head. I just think having you around is too conspicuous. I'll call you if I need you. Otherwise, you're free. I stared at her, unable to believe what I was hearing. Don't get too excited, she added. The on-call part of the deal still stands. As I watched her disappear into the building, I let out a long breath. Did this mean I had passed my probation period? Back in my dorm, I pulled out my phone and saw an unread text from an unknown number. Stay away from Chloe. You'll regret it if you don't. A friend. I scoffed and deleted the message. It looked like Bradley Morgan's concern was just getting started. So, she really gave you a break? Kevin asked, his mouth full of spicy chicken from the dining hall. I nodded, picking a piece of fat out of my vegetables. She said to be on call, but I haven't heard from her in 3 days. Then what are you waiting for? Go live your life. Kevin pointed at me with his chopsticks. Half the guys on campus would kill for a free pass into the women's dorm area, and you're moping around like a jilted lover. I pushed my tray away. Anyone who's so envious can have the job. I'll take it. Kevin's eyes lit up. I hear Chloe's best friend Lily is single. Just then, my phone vibrated. A text popped up on the screen. Be at the main campus gate at 7 p.m. tonight. Or something formal. See. Kevin saw my expression. Speak of the devil. I sighed and checked the time, 4 p.m. Enough time to go back and change. What's the occasion tonight? Kevin asked, his curiosity piqued. It doesn't say. Just we're something formal. I frowned. Don't tell me it's another one of those boring galas. Back in the dorm, I pulled out the blue suit. The frayed cuffs seemed even more noticeable now. Kevin tossed a bow tied down from his bunk. Borrow it. Don't lose it. I need it for a debate tournament. At 6:50 p.m., I was waiting at the main gate. The October evening air was crisp, and I instinctively rubbed my hands together. At 7 o'clock sharp, a red Porsche pulled up in front of me. The window rolled down to reveal Chloe, sunglasses on, turning to look at me. Get in. I opened the passenger door, surprised to see her driving herself. The car was filled with a light, pleasant fragrance. The leather seats were cool to the touch. Where are we going? I asked, buckling my seatbelt. A party, Chloe said curtly, stepping on the gas. The car sped away from campus, heading toward the city outskirts. Chloe drove aggressively, weaving through traffic with a practiced ease that was completely at odds with her usual princess-like demeanor. Do you drive yourself often? I asked. A small smile played on her lips. What, you think girls can't drive? No, it's just surprising. I looked at the scenery rushing by. Does her dad approve? Chloe's expression immediately frosted over. I'm 20 years old. I don't need his approval for anything. The atmosphere in the car dropped to freezing. I wisely shut my mouth and watched the GPS navigate us to our destination, the Pinnacle Estates, the most exclusive gated community in the city. 20 minutes later, we were on a private mountain road. Perfectly manicured hedges and tall ginkgo trees lined the way, lit by vintage-style lamps. It felt like entering another world. This is a friend's house. Chloe cut me off. It's a private party tonight. Say as little as possible and just follow my lead. The villa at the top of the hill was ablaze with lights, the driveway packed with luxury cars. Chloe tossed her keys to a valet and walked toward the front door. I hurried to keep up, suddenly hyper-aware of how out of place my old suit looked here. The door opened, and we were hit by a wall of sound. The spacious living room was filled with dozens of stylish young people, glasses in hand, laughing and talking. A champagne tower sparkled under a crystal chandelier. Chloe, a girl with short pink hair, rushed over to hug her. You're finally here. Traffic was bad. Chloe smiled, a genuine smile I'd never seen before. The pink-haired girl eyed me curiously. And who's this? My classmate, Ethan, Chloe said casually. I brought him to see the sights. Classmate? I thought with a bitter smile. It seemed the title lackey was too embarrassing for her to admit to her friends. Wow, Chloe's first time bringing a guy to a party, the girl said excitedly. I'm Lily, by the way. Chloe's high school friend. I nodded a greeting. Chloe was already swallowed by the crowd, fitting in as naturally as a fish in water. I stood there, feeling like an outsider who'd crashed the party. First time at one of these things, a guy in gold-rimmed glasses handed me a glass of champagne. Don't be nervous. They're just normal people, but with a little more money. I took the glass, not bothering to explain that I'd worked at a high-end restaurant for 2 years and had seen plenty of the so-called upper class. I'm Alex. My father's in real estate, he said, pushing up his glasses. And you and Chloe are classmates. I repeated Chloe's line. Alex smiled knowingly. Chloe never brings classmates to parties. You're the first. I didn't know how to respond, so I took a sip of champagne. The bubbles burst on my tongue with a slightly tart, fruity flavor. Come on, I'll introduce you to some people, Alex said, clapping me on the shoulder. Since Chloe brought you, you're one of us. For the next half hour, I was introduced to a parade of second-generation elites, the son of a real estate tycoon, the daughter of a jewelry conglomerate, the heir to an investment banking partner. They were all polite and well-spoken, but the condescension in their eyes was barely concealed. "So, Ethan, what does your family do?" a girl in couture suit asked. "My mother is a doctor," I answered calmly. "Oh, which hospital?" "My father knows many of the hospital directors." "A community clinic," I smiled, "but she's on medical leave right now." The conversation died instantly. A few of them exchanged glances and politely changed the subject. I made an excuse and escaped to the terrace for some fresh air. The city lights glittered below, and the mountain breeze cooled my flushed face. A familiar voice came from behind me. "So, how are you holding up?" Chloe had appeared behind me, holding 2 glasses. She was wearing a black, backless dress tonight, her hair loosely pinned up, a few strands framing her neck. She was breathtakingly beautiful in the moonlight. "I'm fine," I said, taking a glass. "Why did you bring me here?" She leaned against the railing, her profile like a statue in the moonlight. "I was bored, looking for some entertainment." "And I'm the entertainment? What else?" She laughed softly. "Watching you squirm among a bunch of trust fund kids is pretty amusing." I tightened my grip on the glass. "Sorry to disappoint you." Chloe raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean? I'm not as out of my depth as you think." I turned to face her. "Your friend Alex's family is in real estate, but his father is currently seeking financing from the Vance Corporation because of cash flow problems. Lily's family's jewelry brand was fined $30 million last year for falsifying financial reports. And that girl over there in the red dress? The Picasso her father collects is a fake. The real one is in the Louvre." Chloe's glass froze midair, her eyes widening slightly. "How do you know all that?" "Observation and memory," I shrugged. "I worked at the Four Seasons for 2 years. I met a lot of so-called high society types. They talk a lot when they're drunk." Chloe's expression shifted from surprise to amusement. "Interesting. So, do you know why I really brought you here? Didn't you just say it was for entertainment?" "That's part of it," she said, taking a sip from her glass. "Mostly, I wanted to see how you'd react in this kind of setting." "And? Did I pass?" "Barely," she said, turning to look out at the city. "At least you didn't embarrass me." We stood in silence for a moment. The sound of lazy jazz music drifted from inside. "That time," Chloe began, her voice unusually hesitant. "The night I got drunk." "I don't remember a thing," I answered quickly. She turned to look at me, her gaze complex. "Really? Rule number 3. I don't remember what I'm not supposed to," I said calmly. Chloe stared at me for a few seconds, then suddenly laughed. "You know, sometimes you are infuriating." I didn't know how to respond to that, so I raised my glass to hide my awkwardness. "Chloe," Lily poked her head out from the glass doors. "Kevin is showing off his new Monet. Come see." Chloe sighed. "Coming." She put down her glass. "Let's go. I'll show you what real art looks like." I followed her back into the living room, where a crowd was gathered around an oil painting, murmuring in admiration. It was a painting of water lilies, with delicate brushstrokes and hazy colors. "This is a late-period Monet," a guy with slick-back hair said proudly. "My dad bought it at a Sotheby's auction last month." The crowd oohed and awed. I leaned in for a closer look and frowned. "What's wrong?" Chloe noticed my expression. "Nothing," I said in a low voice. She narrowed her eyes. "Tell me, there's something wrong with the painting," I whispered. Monet developed cataracts late in life. His style was much blurrier than this, and he used a different type of canvas. Chloe raised an eyebrow. "Are you sure?" "Not sure. It's just a feeling." Suddenly, she raised her voice. "Kevin, Ethan says your painting is a fake." The room fell silent. I stared at Chloe, wide-eyed. A mischievous smile played on her lips. "What?" Kevin's face turned red. "He says it's not a real Monet," Chloe said with an innocent blink. "He used to be a volunteer at the Louvre. He's an expert on Impressionism." I'd never been to the Louvre, let alone volunteered there. What is she talking about? All eyes were on me. Kevin walked over, looking down at me. "Oh, really? Then please, expert, enlighten us. What's wrong with it?" I took a deep breath and walked up to the painting. First, because of his vision problems, Monet's late-life brushstrokes were much more indistinct. This one is too clear. Second, the original has his unique signature in the bottom left corner. This one is a good imitation, but the brushwork is off. And finally, I pointed to the frame. The original was framed in walnut. This is oak. I had no idea what kind of frame Monet used, but since Chloe had put me on the spot, I had to bluff my way through it. Kevin's face grew darker. A middle-aged man in glasses suddenly stepped out from the crowd, clearly a hired appraiser. "The young man has a good eye," he said, pushing up his glasses. "This is indeed a copy, but a very fine one. Most people wouldn't be able to tell the difference." The room erupted in whispers. Kevin's face was beet red, and he shot me a death glare. Chloe suddenly linked her arm with mine. I told you Ethan was brilliant. She looked up at me, her eyes sparkling. Come on, let's go try the desserts Kevin's chef made. At least those are real. She pulled me out of the living room, leaving the chattering crowd behind. Are you crazy? I shook off her arm the moment we were in the dining area. I was about to be humiliated. Chloe laughed like a kid who'd just pulled off a successful prank. But you were right, weren't you? I was just guessing. No, you observed, she said, picking up a macaron, just like you observed the backgrounds of all my friends. That's a very special talent. I didn't know whether to be angry or amused. So, this was some kind of test. You could say that, she said, biting into the macaron, and you passed. Is there a prize? Chloe thought for a moment, then reached out and straightened my crooked bow tie. This is borrowed, isn't it? It doesn't suit you. Her fingers brushed against my neck, cool to the touch. I'll take you to buy a new one tomorrow. I was stunned. It was the first time she'd ever offered to buy me anything, let alone such a personal gesture. You don't have to. I had a new clause in the contract. She cut me off. Formal wear for official events will be provided by the client. She tilted her head. What? You don't want to accept my generosity? I shook my head. I just don't think it's necessary. I think it is. Chloe's expression returned to its usual haughtiness. I don't want you showing up at the next party in that old suit and embarrassing me. After the party, Chloe insisted on driving back herself. It was late, and a thick fog on a mountain road reduced visibility to almost nothing. Slow down, I couldn't help but say. Scared. She pressed the gas pedal. No, the fog is too thick. It's not safe. Chloe chuckled. Relax, I could drive this road with my eyes closed. No sooner had the words left her mouth than a stray cat darted out from the side of the road. Chloe swerved violently, and the car shot toward the guardrail. Watch out. I grabbed for the steering wheel. With a screech of tires, the car came to a stop just inches from the rail. We were both breathing heavily, our hearts pounding. Are you okay? I asked, turning to look at her. Chloe's hands were clamped on the steering wheel, her knuckles white. Suddenly, her whole body shuddered once, then again. Chloe! She lowered her head, her long hair falling forward to hide her face. I gently pushed her hair back and saw that she was crying, silent tears rolling down her cheeks and splashing onto the leather steering wheel. Hey, it's okay. We're safe, I said softly. She shook her head, not in denial, but as if refusing comfort. I didn't know what to do, so I just waited. A few minutes later, Chloe lifted her head, wiped her tears, and started the car again. On the way back, she drove slowly and steadily, not saying another word. It wasn't until we stopped at the campus west gate that she finally spoke. Don't tell anyone about what happened tonight. I nodded. Including your father? Especially him. She turned off the engine. Get out. I unbuckled my seatbelt, hesitating for a moment. Are you sure you don't want her to walk you back to your dorm? Get lost. I closed the car door and watched the red Porsche disappear into the night. The Chloe of tonight, playful one moment, fragile the next, had completely upended my perception of her. The next morning, my phone rang, waking me up. The name Chloe flashed on the screen, and I was instantly awake. Hello, I'm downstairs from your dorm. Her voice was back to its usual cool indifference. Be down in 10 minutes. I glanced at the time, 7 a.m. on a Saturday. It was drizzling outside, the sky a gloomy gray. 9 minutes later, I ran downstairs with an umbrella. Chloe was standing by a black SUV, wearing a simple white t-shirt and jeans, her hair in a ponytail. Her makeup-free face looked especially pale in the rain. Get in, she said curtly. The car was warm and dry, with the faint smell of leather. I buckled my seatbelt. Where are we going? Shopping, she said, starting the car. You need new clothes. The city was hazy and quiet in the rain. Chloe drove much more steadily than last night, her eyes focused on the road. I noticed the faint dark circles under her eyes. Didn't sleep well? I asked. She didn't answer, just turned on a radio. A piano piece began to play, Chopin's Nocturne. 20 minutes later, we pulled up in front of a discreet boutique downtown. The name was in French, and I couldn't read it. The owner is a friend of mine, Chloe said as she got out of the car. He knows how to be discreet. The interior was minimalist, with clothes arranged by color, none of them with price tags. A man in a black turtleneck sweater came to greet us, giving Chloe a warm hug. Chloe, darling, it's been too long. His eyes shifted to me, his eyebrows raising slightly. And who is this? Ethan, Chloe said simply. He needs a few outfits, formal and casual. The owner, who she called Pierre, circled me, sizing me up like a piece of merchandise. Good build, just a little too thin. He clapped me on the shoulder. Don't worry, leave it to me. The next 2 hours were a nightmare of fittings. Pierre had me try on countless outfits while Chloe sat on a sofa, offering critiques. That one's too old-fashioned. The color doesn't suit him. The cut is wrong. Finally, we settled on a dark gray suit, 2 shirts, a tie, and a few casual outfits. As Pierre was adjusting my collar, he whispered, "You're the first guy Chloe's ever brought here." I didn't know how to respond, so I pretended not to hear. When it came time to pay, I snuck a peek at the bill and almost had a heart attack. It was more than my entire year's tuition. Chloe swiped her card without blinking. "This is a business expense," she said as we left the store. "For work." It was still raining, and we made a dash for the car. Chloe suddenly sneezed, then sneezed again. "Are you catching a cold?" I asked. "I'm fine," she said, grabbing a tissue. "Take me home." On the way back to the Waterford, her cold symptoms became more obvious. By the time we arrived, her nose was red and her eyes were watery. "Are you sure you don't need to see a doctor?" I asked, concerned. I said I'm fine, she snapped. "I have a performance tomorrow at 3 in the music hall. Don't be late." I watched her get into the elevator before turning to leave. The rain was coming down harder, and I had to wait 20 minutes before I could get a taxi. Back at the dorm, I carefully hung the new clothes in my closet. Kevin poked his head down from his bunk. "Whoa, hit the jackpot." "Business expense," I said, mimicking Chloe's tone. "What kind of business requires our money?" Kevin whistled. "Princess Chloe is treating you well." I frowned. "How did you know Chloe bought them?" "The whole campus knows she took you shopping today," Kevin said, holding up his phone. "The subreddit is blowing up. The pictures are crystal clear." I snatched his phone. On the screen was a photo of me and Chloe leaving the boutique, with the caption, "Campus Queen's shopping spree with her mystery boyfriend." The comments section had exploded. Someone had recognized the store and pointed out that it was a private custom shop favored by the city's elite. "Damn it," I said, tossing the phone back. "Who took this?" "Posted anonymously," Kevin shrugged. "But from the angle, it looks like they were camped out across the street." I suddenly remembered Bradley Morgan's threatening text. Could it be him? The next afternoon, I arrived at the music hall on time. It was a small chamber music performance, with Chloe as the piano soloist. There weren't many people, mostly music department students and faculty. When Chloe walked onto the stage in a white dress, I noticed her face was paler than usual, her nose slightly red. The performance began, and she played flawlessly, but having observed her so closely for so long, I could tell she was forcing herself through it. After the performance, I waited for her at the backstage exit. When Chloe came out, she was unsteady on her feet. "You have a fever," I said, reaching out to touch her forehead. It was burning up. "Don't touch me," she protested weakly. "Take me home." On the way back to the Waterford, Chloe leaned against the car window, dozing off. By the time we reached the underground garage, I had to half-carry her into the elevator. "Keys," I said, holding out my hand. Chloe fumbled to give them to me, her fingers scorching hot. After opening the door, I took her straight to her bedroom. She collapsed onto the bed, her breathing shallow. "Where's the first aid kit?" I asked. "Don't. Need medicine," she mumbled. "Hey, medicine." I searched the bathroom and kitchen, but only found some vitamins and Band-Aids. The rain outside was getting heavier, and it was already dark. The nearest pharmacy was a 20-minute walk. I went back to the bedroom. Chloe had curled into a ball, looking like a small, wounded animal. I gently nudged her. "I'm going to get you some medicine. I'll be right back." She suddenly grabbed my wrist. "No, don't go." Her palm was as hot as a coal, her eyes unfocused. The fever was clearly making her delirious. I pried her fingers off and tucked her hand back under the covers. "I'll be back soon." I had to run to 3 different pharmacies in the pouring rain before I found the right kind of fever reducer. By the time I got back to her apartment, I was soaked to the bone. Chloe was still asleep, her forehead even hotter than before. "Chloe, wake up. You need to take this," I said, helping her sit up. She shook her head dazedly. "No, medicine. The fever won't go down if you don't. Mom used to." Her voice was thick with tears. The medicine didn't work. I froze for a second, remembering what Lily had said about Chloe's mother. It seemed her aversion to medicine was tied to that. "This isn't that kind of medicine," I coaxed her gently. "It's just a normal fever reducer. You'll feel better after you take it." She still shook her head, her lips pressed tightly together. I sighed, suddenly remembering an old home remedy my mom used to use on me when I had a fever. "Okay, no medicine. How about I make you some ginger soup?" Chloe's eyes fluttered open. "Ginger soup? It's a family recipe. Works better than medicine." I helped her lie back down. "Do you have any ginger in the kitchen?" She nodded weakly. "The housekeeper buys it every week." I found a piece of old ginger and some dates in the kitchen. There was no brown sugar, so I used rock sugar instead. 20 minutes later, a steaming bowl of ginger soup was ready. When I got back to the bedroom, Chloe had fallen asleep again. I gently woke her. Drink a little before you go back to sleep. She managed to sit up, wrinkling her nose at the smell. It's so spicy. You have to drink it while it's hot for it to work. I held the bowl to her lips. Chloe took small sips, grimacing with each one, but she finished most of the bowl. Afterwards, her nose was beaded with sweat, and her cheeks were flushed from the heat. She looked a little more alert. It tastes awful, she commented, but her voice was stronger. You'll feel better after you sleep, I said, taking the bowl. She lay back down, then suddenly asked, Why don't you ask about my mother? You'll tell me when you're ready. I pulled the covers up over her. Chloe stared at the ceiling for a while, then closed her eyes. I thought she was asleep and was about to leave when she murmured, It was cancer. She took so much medicine. But in the end, her voice trailed off, replaced by the sound of even breathing. I stood by her bed, looking at her brow, still furrowed in sleep. I suddenly understood her deep-seated fear of medicine. I spent the night on the living room couch, checking on her every couple of hours. At 4 a.m., her fever finally broke, and she was sleeping peacefully. I tiptoed into the kitchen, cleaned up, and left the remaining ginger soup warming on the stove with a note. Heat this up when you wake up. Call if you need anything. E. On the way back to campus, the rain had stopped, and the eastern sky was beginning to pale. I was exhausted, but I felt a strange sense of satisfaction. It didn't feel like I was fulfilling a contract. It felt more like caring for a friend. The thought startled me. Chloe and me, friends? Impossible. 3 days later, I was in the library cramming for a paper when my phone vibrated. A text from Chloe. Tonight, 7 p.m. Meet me at the back door of the music hall. I replied, Feeling better? Read, but no reply. At 7 p.m., I was at the designated spot. The back entrance to the music hall was deserted, lit by a single, lonely lamppost. I leaned against the wall, the cool autumn air seeping through my thin shirt. Half an hour later, Chloe finally showed up. She was wearing a black trench coat, her hair down. She looked fully recovered. You're late, I said. She ignored my comment and pulled a key from her bag. Practice room key. I left it backstage. Go get it for me. Now. I took the key and headed for the side entrance of the music hall. The practice rooms were at the end of a long, dark hallway on the second floor, lit only by emergency lights. The sound of the key turning in the lock was loud in the silence. I pushed the door open. Moonlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, casting a silver glow on the grand piano. I fumbled for the light switch. As the lights flickered on, I noticed a paper bag on top of the piano. I walked closer. A sticky note was attached to the bag. Too curious, I opened it. Inside was a deep blue tie, the fabric soft and exquisitely made. Underneath the tie was a card. A thank you gift. Don't get it dirty. I picked up the tie, a smile unconsciously forming on my face. What was this? A thank you for the ginger soup? A reward for my performance as a lackey? Whatever it was the first time Chloe had shown me any gratitude, or at least acknowledgement. I carefully placed the tie back in the bag, turned off the light, and locked the door. When I got back to the rear entrance, Chloe was still there, pretending to be engrossed in a poster on the wall. Got it? She asked without turning around. I handed her the bag. This is for you. She frowned. What? The thing from the practice room. Chloe took the bag, glanced inside, and immediately shoved it back at me. Idiot. It's for you. Why? No reason. She turned and walked away. We have class tomorrow afternoon. Get there early and save me a seat. I stood there, watching her silhouette disappear into the night. I opened the bag again. The tie seemed to glow in the moonlight, soft and gentle, just like the occasional moments of kindness Chloe showed. Fleeting but real. Back in my dorm, I carefully placed the tie in my drawer. Kevin poked his head down from his bunk. Oh, a love token? Get lost, I said, turning off my lamp. But in the darkness, I couldn't help but smile. My phone rang at 6 in the morning, and I nearly threw it out the window. The name Chloe flashed on the screen, and I was instantly awake. Hello. Get to the Waterford. Now. Her voice was unusually urgent. And bring the new suit. Now? What's wrong? Don't ask questions. Just be here in 30 minutes. The line went dead. I swore, rolling out of bed. Kevin poked his head out from under his covers. Another summons from Her Highness? Yep. I grabbed the gray suit from my closet and ran to the bathroom. 20 minutes later, I was standing outside the Waterford residences. The doorman, who now recognized me, buzzed me right in. As the elevator ascended, I checked my reflection. Dark jeans, a white button-down, a black jacket. Presentable, at least. Chloe opened the door so fast, it was like she'd been waiting right behind it. She was wearing exquisite makeup, her hair in an elegant updo, and a champagne-colored cocktail dress that shimmered. You're slow. She pulled me inside. Go change. Now. What is going on? I asked, handing her the suit bag. My father set up a last-minute blind date. She bit her lip. The guy is the heir to Sterling Holdings. I have to be at this brunch meeting. I raised an eyebrow. So, you're going to pretend to be my boyfriend and come with me. She pushed me toward the guest room. It's a new clause in the contract. In an emergency, you are required to assist the client with additional tasks. I stopped in my tracks. Wait, you want me to pretend to be your boyfriend in front of your dad? Not my dad. Just this obnoxious Sterling guy. Chloe rolled her eyes. My father won't be there. He just made the introduction. Why me? Can't Lily help you out? Because the Sterling family is extremely conservative. They were horrified by the idea of me dating a woman. Chloe's lips curved into a sly smile. Lily pretended to be my girlfriend last week to scare them off. It backfired. Now my dad is even more determined to straighten me out. I rubbed my temples. Chloe, this is a terrible idea. Rule number 3. She held up 3 fingers. You do what I say, no questions asked. This is not part of my contracted services. It falls under other reasonable duties as requested by the client. She pointed to the fine print of the supplemental clause. I checked. It's totally legitimate. I opened my mouth and closed it. She was right. There was a vague catch-all clause just like that. Now go get changed. She clapped her hands. We have to be at the hotel by 7:30. 5 minutes later, I walked out of the guest room in the gray suit. Chloe was pacing in the living room. She stopped and gave me a critical once-over. Where's your tie? I don't know how to tie one. She rolled her eyes, went to a drawer, and pulled out the deep blue tie, the one she'd given me. Turn around. I turned, and I could feel her nimble fingers wrapping the fabric around my collar, gently tightening the knot. Her breath was warm on the back of my neck, smelling faintly of mint toothpaste. There! She stepped back. Presentable. In the mirror, I looked completely different. The suit fit perfectly, and the tie added just the right pop of color. Chloe stood behind me, her champagne dress a stark contrast to my dark suit. We actually looked good together. Remember, once we're there, say as little as possible. But don't be too quiet, or you'll look suspicious, Chloe instructed as she gathered her purse. The key is to act like we're very much in love, but not quite at the talking about marriage stage. Are you sure this will fool your dad? It won't, she said with a smirk, but it will be enough to make the Sterlings back off. The hotel lobby was opulent, with crystal chandeliers casting a blinding light. I followed Chloe toward the restaurant, my palms sweating. Relax, Chloe whispered. You're as stiff as a board. I've never done this before. Just think of it as acting. She suddenly took my arm, her body pressing close. From this moment on, you're the senior who's had a crush on me for 2 years. We met in the piano club and have been secretly dating for 3 months. I looked down at her. The piano club? I can't even read music, which is why you need to keep your mouth shut. She squeezed my arm. We're here. A man in a black suit stood at the restaurant entrance. He greeted Chloe immediately. Miss Vance, Mr. Sterling is already here. He led us to a table by the window. A young man in a light gray 3-piece suit stood up, his eyes immediately going past me to Chloe. Miss Vance. A pleasure. He extended his hand. I'm Julian Sterling. Chloe shook his hand politely. Mr. Sterling. Then, tightening her grip on my arm, she said, This is my boyfriend, Ethan Cole. Julian's smile froze. Boyfriend? That's right. I stepped forward and offered my hand. Ethan Cole, senior, computer science at Stratton. Julian shook my hand reluctantly, his eyes filled with suspicion. Mr. Vance didn't mention. My father doesn't know, Chloe said, leaning her head on my shoulder sweetly. We're trying to keep it a secret. The waiter arrived with menus just in time to break the tension. After we ordered, Julian began to grill me about my family background, each question a small knife, trying to poke holes in my story. So, Ethan, what does your family do? My mother is a doctor. Oh, which hospital is she affiliated with? A community clinic, I answered calmly. But she's on medical leave right now. A flicker of disdain crossed Julian's eyes. And your father? He passed away. My condolences, he said without a hint of sincerity. Then he turned to Chloe. Miss Vance, how many years have you been playing the piano? I hear you're exceptionally talented. The conversation shifted to art and music. I quietly ate my eggs Benedict, listening to them discuss classical composers I'd never heard of. So, I take it you're also a music aficionado, Ethan? He suddenly threw the question at me. Not at all, I admitted honestly, but I love listening to Chloe play. Oh, what's your favorite piece she plays? I thought back to her recital. Chopin's Nocturne, Opus 9, number 2. Chloe shot me a surprised look. Julian pressed on. And why is that? Because. I looked at Chloe, suddenly remembering her drunken tears that night, because that's when she's the most real. The table fell silent. Chloe's eyes widened slightly, her lips parting and then closing again. Julian frowned, clearly not understanding what I meant. The brunch ended in a cloud of awkwardness. Julian politely excused himself, claiming he had a meeting, but his eyes were cold. As Chloe and I waited for the car at the hotel entrance, she suddenly asked, "Did you really listen to my entire recital?" "Yes. How did you remember it was the nocturne?" I shrugged. "It was beautiful." She stared at me for a moment, then reached up to adjust my tie, even though it was perfectly straight. "You did well. I'll add a bonus for you when the contract ends." The car arrived. She dropped her hand from my tie, her fingertips brushing my chin, a touch as light as a feather. On the way back to campus, Chloe was unusually quiet. While we were stopped at a red light, she suddenly spoke. "My dad's not going to give up. There'll be another Julian Sterling?" "Yes." She tightened her grip on the steering wheel. "But I'll find another excuse next time. Why don't you just tell him you don't want to be set up on blind dates?" Chloe scoffed. "You've met my father. Do you think he's a man who accepts no for an answer?" I thought of Marcus Vance's piercing eyes and shook my head. "So," Chloe said, turning into the campus gate, "you might have to play the boyfriend a few more times during the contract. Any problem with that?" "Is there overtime pay?" She let out a short, sharp laugh. "You're obsessed with money." The car stopped in front of the academic building. Chloe took off her sunglasses. "Class is at 2. Don't be late." I was about to get out when I saw a familiar figure standing at the entrance, Bradley Morgan. He was in a sharp navy suit, holding a bouquet of red roses and staring right at us. "Your admirer is here," I said in a low voice. Chloe followed my gaze, and her face hardened. "He never gives up. Do you need me to play the boyfriend again?" "No." She put her sunglasses back on. "You can go. I'll handle this." As I got out of the car, Bradley strode over. He deliberately bumped my shoulder, then leaned down to say something to Chloe. She shook her head, rolled up the window, and drove away. Bradley stood there, his face grim. As I walked past him, I heard him mutter, "Don't think I don't know what you are. A contract boyfriend." I pretended not to hear and headed for the library. Bradley knew more than I thought. This was not good. Chloe was 10 minutes late for class that afternoon. She slipped into the seat next to me, a faint scent of roses clinging to her. "From Bradley?" I whispered. She frowned. "You can smell it. It's pretty strong. Disgusting." She opened her notebook and forcefully wrote down the date. "From now on, you'll wait for me downstairs at my dorm before every class." "Why?" "To avoid this kind of harassment." She shot me a glare. "It's a new clause in the contract." I sighed silently. In her hands, the contract was as malleable as clay. The following 2 weeks, Chloe's requests became stranger. In addition to the usual pickups, note-taking, and coffee runs, she added human shield to my duties. Whenever a suitor approached, I had to appear and play the doting boyfriend. The subreddit thread about us exploded. Someone even started a Simps Diary column dedicated to documenting my daily efforts to please Chloe. The user Rivermoon Watcher was particularly active, often posting details that only an insider would know. Friday night, I was in my dorm coding when my phone rang. It was Chloe's number, but when I answered, it was Lily's voice. "Ethan, get to the Velvet Note, quick. Chloe's drunk." I frowned. "Why are you using her phone?" She left it on the table. "I saw your name in her recent calls," Lily said, her voice urgent. "Hurry. She's not in a good way." 15 minutes later, I burst into the Velvet Note. Chloe was sitting alone in a corner booth, 3 empty glasses in front of her. Lily was on the phone a short distance away, waving at me with relief when she saw me. "What happened?" I asked. "I thought she didn't drink." "It's the anniversary of her mother's death," Lily said in a low voice. "She disappears every year on this day and gets wasted at night. I usually take her home, but this year she has a full-time babysitter," I said with a grim smile. "Okay, I've got it." I walked over to Chloe. She looked up at me, her eyes unfocused. "Oh, look, my contract boyfriend is here. Let's go home," I said, reaching for her. She slapped my hand away. "Don't touch me. You don't really care about me." "Rule number 3, I said, mimicking her tone. "You do what I say, no questions asked." Chloe froze for a second, then giggled. "You sound just like me." Her laughter stopped abruptly, and she covered her mouth. "I think I'm going to be sick." I quickly helped her to the restroom. She was violently ill, and I had to wait outside the door. When she finally staggered out, her face was wet with either tears or tap water. "Can you walk?" I asked. She didn't answer, just collapsed against me. I half carried her out of the bar and into a taxi. "The Waterford?" the driver asked. I looked down at Chloe in my arms. Her eyes were closed, her breathing even. Suddenly, she mumbled, "Don't want to go home. It's so empty." "Then where?" "Campus." She slurred. The practice room. I hesitated for a moment. Stratton University, music department. Thanks. The campus was eerily quiet at night. The music building was locked, but Chloe fumbled in her purse and pulled out a key. The practice room key. You carry this with you? Secret hideout, she said, fumbling with the lock. It took her 3 tries to get open. The practice room was pitch black. Moonlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, casting a silver glow on the grand piano. Chloe stumbled over to the piano and sat down, her fingers gently resting on the keys. Are you going to play? I whispered. Now. She didn't answer. Her fingers came down. It was the nocturne, the piece she had played so many times before. But tonight, it was completely different, at times as fierce as a storm, at others as faint as a whisper, as if she were pouring out all her emotions into the music. I stood in the shadows, not daring to disturb her. The alcohol didn't seem to affect her technique. If anything, it made her emotional expression even more raw. When the piece ended, her shoulders were trembling slightly. My mother taught me, she whispered. It was the last one. I didn't know what to say, so I remained silent. Chloe started another piece, this time a cheerful melody that contrasted sharply with her somber expression. When she was sick, I played this for her every day. I thought it would make her better. The music stopped abruptly. Liar. Everyone's a liar. Her head slowly drooped until her forehead rested on the keys, creating a discordant hum. I walked over quietly and saw that she had fallen asleep. Chloe, I nudged her gently. Wake up. You can't sleep here. She didn't respond. I sighed, bent down, and lifted her into my arms. She was even lighter than I remembered, curled up like a small, wounded bird. There was a small sofa in the corner of the room. I carefully placed her on it and draped my jacket over her. I was about to go find some water when her hand shot out and grabbed my wrist. Don't go, she mumbled. Don't leave me alone. I knelt down. I'm just getting you some water. No, just sit here. She patted the empty space beside her. I had no choice but to sit. Chloe immediately leaned against me, her head resting on my shoulder. Her breath carried the scent of alcohol and a faint fruity perfume. You know, she whispered, I hate today. I know. Everyone pretends to forget. Even my dad. I'm the only one who remembers. Her voice grew fainter. Only me. I didn't know how her mother had passed away or what it meant to Chloe. But in that moment, I could feel her pain, real and sharp. Go to sleep, I said softly. I'm here. She seemed to be asleep already, her eyelashes casting tiny shadows in the moonlight. I carefully took out my phone and quietly recorded the sound of her even breathing. It was probably against some clause in the contract, but right now, who cared? The next morning, I woke up with a stiff neck and sore muscles. Chloe was gone. Only my jacket remained on the sofa, with a note on top. Don't bother me today. See, I rubbed my neck and saw an unread text from Lily. Thanks for last night. She needs to be alone today. I put my phone away and left the practice room. The morning sun filled the hallway, and in the distance, I could hear an early rising music student practicing scales. My phone suddenly rang. It was my alarm. The ringtone was the recording of Chloe playing the nocturne I'd secretly made last night. The following Monday, Chloe was back to her usual self, haughty, demanding, and imperious, as if that vulnerable night had never happened. I played my part as the dutiful contract boyfriend, not mentioning a word about it. But something had changed. My phone's ringtone was now that recording. I started unconsciously jotting down Chloe's preferences in my notes app. Likes blueberry yogurt but hates actual blueberries. Bites her lower lip when she's reading. Fiddles with the hair behind her right ear when she's upset. On Wednesday afternoon, I was studying in the library when Lily suddenly appeared across from me. Got a minute? We need to talk. Her expression was unusually serious. We walked to the small garden behind the library. Lily handed me a coffee. Chloe has a charity gala next week. She needs a date. Let me guess. I'm playing the boyfriend again? No, this time it's for real, Lily sighed. A lot of her father's business partners will be there. He's making her go. I frowned. So she wants to ask you, but she's too proud to do it herself. Lily rolled her eyes. You two are a perfect match, both stubborn as mules. The contract doesn't say I have to attend formal galas, but it does say you have to accompany the client to necessary social functions. Lily had clearly done her homework. Besides, she lowered her voice. Bradley Morgan will be there. He's been spreading rumors that you're only with Chloe for the money. I scoffed. Let him talk. The problem is his father is one of the event sponsors, Lily said with a frown. Chloe needs an impeccable date to shut them all up. I took a sip of the bitter coffee. Why me? She could find any number of guys from her own social circle. Because she trusts you, Lily said, looking me straight in the eye. Even though she'll never admit it. I ended up agreeing. Not because of the contract or to shut Bradley up, but because of what Lily said. She trusts you. The night before the gala, Chloe sent me a text. Tomorrow, 6 p.m., the Waterford. Don't be late. Short, blunt, classic Chloe. An hour later, another text arrived. And bring the tie. I stared at the screen, a smile tugging at my lips. She remembered the tie. The day of the gala, I arrived at her apartment half an hour early. Chloe was still getting ready when she opened the door. Her hair was half up, her makeup perfect. She was wearing a deep blue, backless gown that made her skin look like snow. You're early, she said, letting me in. I'm not ready. Need any help? Can you braid hair? She raised an eyebrow. No. Then just sit tight. She went back to her bedroom. I sat on the living room sofa and noticed a photo frame on the coffee table. The picture of Chloe and her mother from her bedroom. In front of it was a single white rose, so fresh it must have been picked that morning. When Chloe came out, I'd already put on my tie. She looked me up and down, then walked over and adjusted the knot. Her fingers moved deftly, and her light perfume filled the air around me. There. She stepped back. Presentable. Thanks, I said dryly. The gala was at the most luxurious hotel in the city. When we arrived, the entrance was already lined with high-end cars. Chloe took my arm and walked into the ballroom with her head held high, like a princess surveying her kingdom. The room was a swirl of clinking glasses and expensive perfume. I immediately spotted Bradley Morgan, dressed in a custom suit, laughing with a group of middle-aged men. When he saw us, his eyes turned to ice. Ignore him, Chloe whispered. Come on, I need to introduce you to a few important clients. For the next half hour, I was introduced to a series of directors, presidents, and CEOs. Chloe navigated the conversations with ease and grace, a world away from the demanding princess I knew. This is Ethan, my boyfriend, she would say each time, her tone so natural that I almost believed it myself. Ah, the brilliant computer science student, one of the female directors said with a smile. Chloe mentions you often. I looked at Chloe in surprise. The tips of her ears were slightly red. Aunt Lisa, you're teasing me. Young love is so sweet, Lisa winked. By the way, Chloe, where's your father? He had a last-minute meeting. He'll be here later, Chloe said, her smile a little stiff. Just as we were leaving the director, a waiter bumped into us, spilling a full glass of red wine all over Chloe's dress. I'm so sorry. So sorry. The waiter apologized profusely. A large patch of her dress was soaked, the deep blue turning almost black. I immediately pulled out a napkin to help her blot it, noticing the Rolex on the waiter's wrist. Not something a typical waiter could afford. It's fine, Chloe said coolly. Let's go. As we turned, a familiar voice called out. Chloe, what a coincidence. Bradley Morgan was walking over with a glass of champagne, his eyes fixed on her stained dress. Oh dear, what a mess. Need some help. It was too obvious. I glared at Bradley, his fake concern making me sick. No, thank you, Chloe said, her back straight. We were just leaving. Don't be in such a hurry, Bradley said, raising his voice. Everyone is dying to meet your boyfriend. A few people nearby turned to look at us curiously. Bradley smiled triumphantly. Ethan, what did you say your family does again? Community clinic? A few soft chuckles rippled through the crowd. Chloe's hand tightened on my arm, her nails digging into my skin. My father is the city's health commissioner, Bradley said, clapping me on the shoulder in a show of false friendliness. Should I make a call? Get your mother transferred to a better hospital? I took a deep breath, about to retort, when Chloe spoke up. Bradley, does your father know you use his name to throw your weight around? Bradley's face changed. Chloe, I was just concerned. Save it, Chloe sneered. Your intentions are written all over your face. The atmosphere was electric. I gently squeezed her hand. Let's go take care of your dress. Once we were away from the crowd, Chloe's anger finally erupted. That bastard. I'm sure he paid someone to spill that wine on me. Calm down, I said, looking around. The restroom is over there. Go clean up, and I'll think of something. When Chloe came out of the restroom, the wine stain was lighter, but still noticeable. She bit her lip. I need to go home and change, but there's no time. I took off my suit jacket and handed it to her. Wear this. What? It'll cover the stain. I helped her put it on. Just tie the sleeves at your waist like a shawl. Chloe looked skeptical, but did as I said. The dark blue jacket surprisingly complemented her dress, cleverly hiding most of the stain and adding a touch of casual chic. How does it look? She asked, turning around. I held my breath. She looked stunning. My jacket made her seem even more petite and delicate, the hem of her gown swaying with her movements like a mermaid's tail. Perfect, I said, my voice hoarse. Chloe looked at her reflection, then suddenly smiled. Not bad. Your sense of style isn't terrible. We returned to the ballroom, turning a few heads. When Bradley saw Chloe's new look, His face fell. How creative, Director Lisa said, coming over to compliment her. You young people are so imaginative. For the rest of the evening, Chloe wore my jacket, even when it was time for the waltz. I placed my hand on her waist, feeling the warmth of her body through the fabric. You're a good dancer, she murmured. Where did you learn? Etiquette class in high school. I led her through a turn. You too. My mother taught me, she said softly. She always said a girl must know how to waltz. We finished the dance in silence. When the music ended, she looked up at me. Thank you. For what? For tonight. She looked away. And for the jacket. I was about to respond when a deep voice came from behind us. Chloe. We both turned. Marcus Vance had arrived, his cold eyes fixed on our clasped hands. Dad. Chloe quickly pulled her hand away. You're here. Mr. Vance. I nodded a greeting. His gaze flickered between me and Chloe, finally settling on the suit jacket she was wearing. Explain this. I spilled something on my dress. Ethan lent me his jacket, Chloe said, her chin held high. Is there a problem? Go change, Marcus commanded. This is inappropriate. Chloe was about to argue, but I gave her a slight shake of my head. She bit her lip, turned, and walked toward the dressing rooms. Ethan, Marcus said, turning to me. Come with me. He led me to a quiet corner and took 2 glasses of whiskey from a passing waiter, handing one to me. How has Chloe been lately? He asked, getting straight to the point. She's been fine, I answered cautiously. Working hard in her classes. He took a sip. How is your relationship going? I almost choked. Mr. Vance. Don't play dumb, he sneered. You think I can't tell it's an act? I took a silent sip of my whiskey, waiting for what was next. I don't care what kind of game you two are playing, Marcus Vance said in a low voice. But remember your place. When the contract is over, you go your separate ways. His tone was calm, but it held an undeniable authority. I looked him straight in the eye. That's exactly what I want. We stared at each other for a few seconds, and he suddenly smiled. Interesting. I hope you mean that. Chloe returned. Having replaced my jacket with a shawl she must have found somewhere. She looked at us warily. What were you talking about? Nothing important, Marcus said, patting his daughter's shoulder. Go say hello to Director Wong. He came specifically to see you. Chloe left reluctantly. Marcus Vance glanced at me once more before turning away, leaving me alone in the corner. After the gala, Chloe was unusually quiet. On the drive back, she stared out the window, her fingers toying with the fringe of her shawl. What did my dad say to you? She asked abruptly as we neared the campus. Nothing important, I said, sidestepping the question. Just asking how you were doing. She scoffed. Him, asking about me? That's a new one. The car stopped at the campus gate. Chloe didn't get out right away. She turned to me, the moonlight tracing the perfect line of her profile. Tonight. Thank you, she said softly. And not just for the jacket. I nodded, not knowing what to say. And she hesitated. Don't take what my father said to heart. He's always like that. How did she know what he'd said? Before I could ask, she pushed the door open. See you tomorrow. As I watched her silhouette disappear into the campus night, I reached for my suit's inner pocket and realized my phone was gone. After checking all my pockets, I was certain I'd left it in Chloe's car. I quickly used a payphone at the gate to call my own number. It rang for a long time before Chloe answered. Hello. It's me, Ethan. I think I left my phone in your car. Oh, I could hear her searching. Found it. I'll give it to you tomorrow. Could you possibly? The line went dead before I could finish. I sighed and started walking toward my dorm. I'd only gone a few steps when my ringtone suddenly played from behind me. It was my ringtone, the recording of Chloe playing the nocturne. I turned. Chloe was standing under a streetlight, holding my phone. The moonlight and lamplight wove around her, making her look like an impressionist painting. You. I walked toward her. Why did you come back? So you wouldn't have an excuse not to pick up my calls tomorrow. She handed me the phone, her eyes darting away. That ringtone. When did you record it? The night in the practice room, I admitted honestly. If you don't like it, I can delete it. Chloe was silent for a moment, then held out her hand. Give me the phone. I handed it to her. She tapped the screen a few times, then gave it back. You can't delete it now. I looked down and saw that she had set the recording as a system ringtone, which required a password to change. Why? I asked, confused. Because. She bit her lower lip. That was the best I've ever played it. With that, she turned and walked away quickly, the sound of her heels echoing in the quiet campus. I stood there, staring at the new password prompt on my phone screen. 0920, her birthday. The hospital called at 3:17 a.m. I was awake instantly, fumbling in the dark to answer. Mr. Cole, a nurse's urgent voice came through the phone. Your mother's fever is spiked. The doctor is recommending we move her to the ICU. I'll be right there. 15 minutes later, I was sprinting down the hospital corridor. Dr. Evans, the lead physician, saw me and intercepted me at the nurse's station. What happened? She was fine yesterday, I said, my voice raw. An infection, Dr. Evans said, adjusting his glasses. A cancer patient's immune system is compromised. Even a minor infection can be life-threatening. Through the ICU window, I saw my mother lying in bed, hooked up to a web of tubes, her face a pale, papery gray. The rhythmic beep of the monitor was the only proof she was still alive. What does she need? I asked directly. The newest imported drugs? Money isn't an issue. Dr. Evans hesitated. There's a new targeted therapy just approved in the U.S. that has shown great efficacy in these situations, but what? It hasn't been approved here yet. Going through the normal channels would take at least 3 months. I clenched my fists, my nails digging into my palms. Are there any other options? Theoretically, if a prescription is issued by a foreign hospital, a small amount can be imported under special approval, Dr. Evans said in a low voice. But that requires extremely powerful connections in both the medical and government sectors. I leaned against the wall, a wave of dizziness washing over me. The exhaustion from 3 days of no real sleep or food hit me all at once. The person with the most connections I knew was. No, I couldn't ask Chloe. This wasn't in the contract. And besides, she'd already done so much. The advance payment, the best private room, the dedicated nursing staff. To ask for more would make me exactly what she'd called me. A person who'd do anything for money. Let's proceed with the standard treatment for now, I said finally. I'll find a way to get that drug. Dr. Evans nodded, patting my shoulders sympathetically. For the next 3 days, I basically lived at the hospital. I go to class, handle Chloe's various demands, and then spend the night by my mother's bedside, dozing in a chair when I couldn't keep my eyes open, surviving on protein bars. Chloe seemed to notice something was off, but she didn't ask, and simply lessened her demands. On Thursday afternoon, she even bought her own coffee for the first time. This is disgusting, she said after one sip, and threw the cup away. You're buying tomorrow. Friday night, my mother's condition worsened. Dr. Evans called me into his office in the middle of the night, his face grim. Mr. Cole, the situation isn't good. If we can't get that drug within the next 3 days. I understand. I cut him off. Give me one more day. I walked out his office, pulled out my phone, and stared at Chloe's contact for a full minute. In the end, I called a different number. Lily, it's Ethan. I need to ask you for a favor. Half an hour later, Lily arrived at the hospital. She was wearing a trench coat over her pajamas, her hair a mess. What drug is so urgent? She asked, yawning. I handed her a piece of paper. This is it. I know this is sudden, but... All right, cut the chatter. Lily glanced at the paper. My cousin works at Johns Hopkins. I'll see what he can do. She went to the end of the hall to make the call, her voice low. 10 minutes later, she was back. It's done. The medicine will be shipped from the U.S. tomorrow and should arrive the day after. I couldn't believe it. Really? It was that simple. Simple. Lily rolled her eyes. Do you have any idea who my cousin is? Never mind. The point is, the drug will be expedited through customs as medical aid and delivered directly to the hospital. I was speechless. All I could do was bow deeply. Thank you. I'll pay for the medicine. Don't worry about it. Lily waved her hand. It's already been paid for. I looked up sharply. By who? Who do you think? She yawned. Chloe, obviously. The moment I heard you were the one asking, I told her. She immediately contacted her father's medical network in the States. Chloe? How did she know? I specifically asked. Oh, by the way, Lily said before she left, Chloe wanted me to tell you not to worry about her birthday party tomorrow. Just focus on your mom. I stood there stunned. Tomorrow was Chloe's birthday? I had completely forgotten. The contract addendum clearly listed important dates. How could I? Back in the ICU waiting room, I opened my phone's notes app. Sure enough, October 20th was circled in red, Chloe's birthday. Below it, a smaller note, get a gift. I slumped into a chair, my mind blank. The past week had been such a blur, I'd completely forgotten this crucial date. It was 4 a.m. Her party was in less than 20 hours. What kind of gift could I possibly get now? In the morning, my mother's condition stabilized. I asked a nurse to keep an eye on her and rushed back to campus. On the way, I passed a high-end department store and stared at the luxury goods in the window. A necklace? A handbag? Perfume? None of it felt right. Chloe had everything, and expensive gifts would mean nothing to her. Suddenly, an idea struck me. I changed direction and sprinted back to my dorm. I dug through my closet, found my old laptop, plugged in my external hard drive, and started sorting through photos. Over the past few months, I had unintentionally captured so many moments of Chloe, Her profile as she focused on a book in the library, her back as she played the piano, her cute pout as she picked bell peppers out of her food in the dining hall. I spent 8 hours selecting, editing, and arranging the photos, then took them to the campus print shop to have them made into a hardcover photo album. The cover was a simple, elegant dark blue leather with 0920 embossed in silver in the bottom right corner. On the last page, I stuck a sticky note, "Happy birthday. Thank you for everything. E." At 7 p.m., I was standing outside the Waterford Residences, gift in hand. The doorman told me Chloe had already left for the hotel. I hailed a cab and rushed to the party venue. The Peninsula, the most luxurious hotel in the city. The lobby was a dazzling spectacle of gold and crystal. Dressed in my only suit, I suddenly felt incredibly out of place. In the elevator, I adjusted my tie in the mirror and noticed the dark circles under my eyes were alarmingly prominent. 2 uniformed attendants stood at the entrance to the top-floor ballroom. I showed them my invitation, and Evie Lilly had forwarded me. They checked the list and politely let me in. The room was buzzing with conversation and clinking glasses. I scanned the crowd for Chloe and quickly found her by the champagne tower. She was breathtaking, a silver floor-length gown, her hair in an elegant updo, a diamond necklace sparkling at her throat. She looked like a fairy tale princess. I took a deep breath, about to walk over, when someone blocked my path. "Ethan." Bradley Morgan was holding a glass of champagne, a smirk on his face. "I didn't think you'd actually have the nerve to show up." I ignored him and tried to walk around, but he stepped in my way. "Do you know what kind of event this is?" "The Vance Corporation heiress's 20th birthday. Half the city's business and political elite are here." He looked me up and down. "Do you really think you belong here?" "Move," I said coldly. "I heard your mother is sick," Bradley said in a low voice. "What a coincidence. My father happens to oversee the city's health system. Should I make a call, give her some special attention?" I clenched my fists so hard my knuckles cracked. Bradley instinctively took a step back, then puffed out his chest. "What, you want to fight? At Chloe's birthday party?" I managed to rein in my anger. I unclenched my fists and walked around him toward Chloe. She was surrounded by a group of rich kids, her smile as perfect as a mask. "Chloe," I said softly. She turned, a flicker of surprise in her eyes, which quickly turned into a frown. "What are you doing here?" "Happy birthday." I handed her the gift. "Sorry I'm late." A few soft chuckles came from the group around her. A girl in a pink dress raised her eyebrows dramatically. "Ooh, Chloe, what did your boyfriend get you? Is it a love letter?" Chloe took the gift and, without a change in expression, placed it on a nearby table piled high with boxes from Hermes and Tiffany & Co. My homemade album looked pathetic and out of place. "Thank you," she said coolly. "You can go now." The girl in the pink dress laughed even louder. Bradley had somehow materialized by Chloe's side, and he shot me a triumphant look. "Chloe," he said, raising his voice, "your uncle and his friends are waiting to see you in the VIP lounge." Chloe nodded, not even glancing at me, and left with Bradley. I stood there, feeling the mocking stares of a dozen people on my back. "Hey man, don't feel too bad." Someone clapped me on the shoulder. It was Alex, the guy from the party at the villa. "That's just Chloe. She's like that with everyone." I managed a weak smile and walked over to the buffet table. I should have known this would happen. How could Chloe possibly show me any special treatment in front of all these people? That photo album was probably destined for the trash. I got a glass of orange juice and stood in a corner by myself. In the center of the ballroom, Chloe was on her father's arm, thanking the guests. Her smile was sweet, her posture elegant, a world away from the demanding girl on campus. "Mr. Cole." A gentle female voice came from behind me. I turned to see a middle-aged woman in a traditional Chinese dress. "You are." "My name is Lisa. I was a college friend of Chloe's mother," she said with a smile. "I saw the gift you gave her. It was very thoughtful." I gave a bitter laugh. "It's just a cheap trinket." "On the contrary," Lisa said meaningfully, "Chloe has never lacked for anything in her life except sincerity." I didn't know how to respond. Lisa glanced over at Chloe in the distance and lowered her voice. Chloe was only 12 when her mother passed away. That child, she buried all her vulnerability and pointed her thorns at the world. I suddenly thought of the night in the practice room, Chloe's drunken rendition of a nocturne, and her whispered plea not to be left alone. "Mr. Cole," Lisa asked suddenly, "were you able to get that medicine?" I looked up sharply. "How did you know?" "Some of the connections the Vance family used were introduced by me," she smiled. "That child, Chloe, she was calling people at 2 in the morning, begging for help for a very important person." My chest felt like it had been hit by a sledgehammer. "Chloe, calling people at 2 in the morning? For me? She didn't tell me." "Of course she wouldn't," Lisa chuckled. That child is far too proud. She patted my shoulder. She'll love the gift. She's just not used to showing her feelings in front of others. Just as Lisa left, Lily rushed over. Ethan, what are you still doing here? Chloe's been looking for you. Looking for me? I said in disbelief. But just now No time for that, come with me. Lily pulled me through the crowd to a quiet hallway. Chloe was standing by a window, her back to us, the silver gown shimmering in the moonlight. I brought him, Lily said, giving me a little shove before winking and disappearing. Chloe turned around. The perfect party smile was gone, replaced by her familiar frown. Who told you to come? Didn't I say you didn't have to? I came to give you your gift. The gift, she sneered. That pathetic photo album. So she had opened it. A knot formed in my stomach. If you don't like it, you can throw it away. Oh, I will, she said, her chin held high. Who wants a bunch of your stalker photos? They weren't stalker photos, I said calmly. Every single one was taken when you knew I was there. Chloe was at a loss for words, turning to look out the window. Silence stretched between us. The faint sound of a waltz drifted from the ballroom. How's your mother? She asked suddenly, her voice barely a whisper. Stable for now. The medicine arrives tomorrow. Thank you. Don't get the wrong idea, she said, still looking out the window. I just don't want any complications during the contract period. I smiled. Rule number 3. I don't remember what I'm not supposed to. Chloe finally turned to face me, the moonlight tracing the perfect line of her profile. She opened her mouth as if to say something, but was cut off by the sound of footsteps. Chloe, Bradley Morgan appeared at the end of the hallway. It's time to cut the cake. Everyone's waiting for you. He saw me, and his expression darkened. What are you still doing here? Chloe's party mask snapped back into place. Let's go. She walked away with Bradley without a second glance at me. I stood there, a wave of exhaustion washing over me. The lack of sleep for the past 3 days, my mother's illness, Chloe's hot and cold attitude. It was all too much. I didn't go back to the ballroom. I took the elevator straight down. As I stepped out of the hotel, the cool night air felt like a balm on my flushed face. My phone vibrated. It was the hospital. I answered immediately. Hello, Mr. Cole. Great news. A nurse's excited voice came through the phone. The medicine arrived early. Dr. Evans has already administered the first dose to your mother. So soon? I thought it wasn't coming until tomorrow. The Vance Corporation's private jet brought it over directly, the nurse said. A Miss Vance also came by the hospital a little while ago. She didn't go into the room, just asked about your mother's condition at the nurse's station and then left. Miss Vance? Chloe? When did she go to the hospital? Wasn't it her birthday party tonight? I stood on the street corner, completely bewildered. How many sides did this girl have? Arrogant, fragile, cold, warm. Which one was the real her? When I got back to the hospital, my mother was awake. The medicine had worked. Her temperature was down, and she had some color back in her cheeks. Son, she said, weakly taking my hand, that Miss Vance. Is she your girlfriend? No, I shook my head. She's just my employer. My mother looked at me thoughtfully. She looked so much like her father. You know Marcus Vance? It was a long time ago, my mother said, closing her eyes, clearly not wanting to talk about it. The medicine must be expensive. It's not elite. Insurance covered most of it. After my mother fell asleep, I tiptoed out of the room. The nurse on duty at the station smiled at me. Mr. Cole, your girlfriend is beautiful. She's not my girlfriend. Oh, don't be shy, the nurse winked. She may not have gone into the room, but she stood outside the door for a long time. She specifically told us to use the best medicine. That money was no object. I didn't know what to say, so I just smiled. The nurse continued, oh, and she asked me to tell you not to worry about picking her up for school tomorrow. She said you should get some rest. Tomorrow is Saturday. I didn't have to pick her up anyway. What was Chloe thinking? Sunday morning, my mother's condition had improved significantly. Dr. Evans said if she remained stable, she could be moved back to a regular room in a couple of days. Relieved, I went back to my dorm to finally get some sleep. I had just lain down when my phone rang. A text from Chloe. 3 p.m. Practice room. Bring your laptop. I stared at the demanding text for a long time before replying. Okay. At 2:50 p.m., I was standing outside the music department practice room. The door was slightly ajar, and I could hear the sound of a piano, the nocturne again, but this time it was hesitant and broken, as if someone was just playing around. I knocked lightly. Come in, Chloe's voice said. I pushed the door open. She was sitting at the piano, dressed in a simple white t-shirt and jeans, her hair in a messy ponytail. The sunlight streamed through the window, bathing her in a golden light. The photo album I'd given her was open on the piano, turned to the last page. Explain this, she said without looking up. What does this mean? I walked closer. What does what mean? Thank you for everything. She read the words from the sticky note, finally looking up at me. You know, don't you? Know what? About the medicine. She stared into my eyes, as if searching for a lie. Yes, the nurse told me. I admitted. Thank you. Chloe immediately looked away. Don't thank me. I just didn't want any complications during the contract period. Understood, I nodded. Contractual obligation. Silence fell again. Chloe's fingers tapped out a few random notes on the keys. Did you bring your laptop? She asked suddenly. Yes. I patted my backpack. What for? Teach me how to edit photos, she said, pointing at the album. The composition of these pictures is decent, but your post-processing is amateurish. I was stunned. You want to learn photo editing? What? Is that a problem? She looked at me defiantly. Is teaching the client a new skill against the contract? I couldn't help but smile. No. Then what are you waiting for? Sit down. The next 2 hours were probably the most peaceful we'd ever spent together. Chloe was a fast learner, with a surprising eye for light and color. We sat side by side on the piano bench, the faint scent of jasmine from her hair filling the air. Why did you make this one cool-toned? She asked, pointing to a picture of her reading in the library. Because the sunlight was too harsh that day. Warm tones would have been overexposed. In this one, she flipped to another page. Why black and white? Because. I hesitated. You were playing the nocturne. Black and white captured the emotion better. Chloe's fingers stilled on the keys, and she softly played the first few notes of the piece. You really like this song? Yes. Why? I thought of the night she was drunk, when she leaned on my shoulder and whispered, "Don't leave me alone." But what I said was, "It's beautiful." Chloe scoffed, clearly unsatisfied with the answer, but didn't press further. She closed the album and suddenly said, "My father wants to see you." When? Tomorrow night. She stood up. A private dinner. Just him, you, and me. What's it about? I don't know. She walked to the window, her back to me. He heard about the medicine and, suddenly, said he wanted to treat you to dinner. I frowned. How did he know? I told him, Chloe said, turning around. Her face was silhouetted against the light. Using the family's network is a big deal. I had to report it to him. So that was it. I packed up my laptop. What time tomorrow? 7. At the Summit restaurant. She paused. We're something formal. Got it. I was at the door when I remembered something. By the way, happy birthday. A day late. Chloe didn't respond, just pressed a single, clear note on the piano that echoed through the room. Monday afternoon, I got to the hospital half an hour early, wanted to check on my mother before the dinner. When I opened the door to her room, I saw an unexpected visitor. Marcus Vance was sitting by her bed, talking to her in a low voice. They both stopped when they saw me. My mother had a smile on her face I hadn't seen in a long time, and Marcus Vance's expression was softer than usual. Mr. Vance, I nodded. What are you doing here? Just visiting an old friend, he said, standing up and adjusting his suit cuffs. Your mother and I. We haven't seen each other in many years. I looked at my mother. She nodded slightly, an unreadable emotion in her eyes. Ethan, Marcus turned to me. Tonight's dinner is canceled. I've spoken with your mother. Some things are more complicated than I thought. What things? You'll find out in time. He clapped my shoulder. Don't worry about the medicine. It's all been arranged. The Vance Corporation will cover all of your mother's medical expenses in full. I stared at him shocked. Why? Let's just say, it's to make up for some past mistakes. He glanced at my mother and said softly, Eleanor, take care of yourself. Call me if you need anything. After he left, the room was silent. My mother stared out the window, her gaze distant. Mom, I couldn't help but ask, what is your relationship with Marcus Vance? My mother sighed. It's all in the past. We were once very good friends. Just friends. We were in college together. We started a business after we graduated, she said softly. Then, things happened. I left the company and went to work at the community clinic. I suddenly thought of the photo in Chloe's apartment, the one of her and her mother. The woman in the picture had a familiar look in her eyes. Mom, my voice was tight. How did Chloe's mother die? My mother's eyes flickered. Cancer. The same as me. She took my hand. Son, don't ask any more questions. The Vance family's affairs. They're too complicated. At 7 that night, I was eating in the hospital cafeteria when my phone rang. A text from Chloe. Where are you? I replied, the hospital. Your dad said dinner was canceled. I know, she texted back immediately. I mean, where in the hospital are you? 20 minutes later, Chloe appeared at the cafeteria entrance. She wore a simple white shirt and black pencil pants, her hair down, no makeup. She looked younger than usual. Several people in the cafeteria turned to stare and whisper. Chloe ignored them, walking straight to my table and sitting down across from me. Have you eaten? I asked. No. She eyed the simple cafeteria food with a frown. Is this place sanitary? It's Michelin 3-star quality, I said, pushing my tray toward her. Want some? Chloe made a disgusted face, but picked up her chopsticks and carefully took a piece of eggplant. It's okay, she admitted reluctantly. We ate in silence, sharing the simple meal. Chloe ate elegantly, taking small bites like a cat. Your dad came to the hospital today, I said, breaking the silence. I know. He and my mom talked for a long time. Hum. They knew each other. Hum. I put down my chopsticks. Is there anything you want to say? Chloe looked up, her clear eyes meeting mine. What do you want to know? The truth. The truth is boring, she said, looking away. The drama of the older generation. It's always about money, power, betrayal. As cliché as a soap opera. But I have a right to know. Why? She shot back. Because of that contract? Or because? She stopped herself. Because of what? Nothing. Chloe stood up. I should go. Wait. I grabbed her wrist. You came here for a reason. She looked down at my hand on her wrist, and I immediately let go. Chloe bit her lip. I came to tell you that the contract might be terminated early. Why? I frowned. Did I break a rule? It's not you. She shook her head. It's my father. He's decided to send you abroad to study. He's already arranged for an offer from MIT. You leave next month. I stared at her, stunned. What? I never even applied. The Vance Corporation has recommendation slots, Chloe said calmly. A full scholarship, including your mother's treatment and living expenses for her to come with you. What is this? My voice turned cold. Charity? Compensation? Or hush money? Chloe's expression sharpened. Think whatever you want. The contract states that the client has the right to terminate the agreement early with appropriate compensation. I don't need this kind of compensation. Then what do you need? She suddenly raised her voice. To keep being my lackey? To keep being called a simp? To keep. That's my choice. I cut her off. Not because your father feels guilty, or because of some damn drama of the older generation. Everyone in the cafeteria was staring at us. Chloe took a deep breath and lowered her voice. Ethan, don't be a fool. Do you know how many people would kill for this opportunity? I don't care what other people think, I said, staring into her eyes. I just want to know, is this your idea or your father's? Chloe was silent. The hospital's PA system crackled to life, calling a doctor to the ER. Does it matter? She said finally. The contract was going to end eventually anyway. She turned and left, her back straight, her steps unwavering. I sat there, watching her disappear from the cafeteria, a hollow feeling in my chest. Back in my mother's room, she was asleep. I quietly took out my laptop and started editing photos, a habit I'd developed over the past few months to calm my nerves. The folder was filled with pictures of Chloe. Chloe frowning in the sunlight in the library. Chloe's lowered eyelashes as she played the piano. Chloe's slightly puffed cheeks when she was angry. Every photo, so vivid, so real. I clicked on a most recent one. At her birthday party, in the silver dress, looking like a dream. In the corner of the photo, Bradley Morgan was watching her with a possessive stare. Suddenly, a thought struck me. Chloe's attitude today, her father's sudden arrangement, my mother's evasiveness. Could it all be connected to Bradley? I closed my laptop and walked to the window. The city lights below glittered like another galaxy. Under those same stars, where's Chloe now? What was she thinking? Did that girl, who always hid her vulnerability behind a mask of arrogance, really want me to leave? My phone vibrated. A text from an unknown number. Stay away from Chloe. She's not in your league. A friend. I sneered and deleted it. But another one came immediately, this time with a photo attached. The back of me and Chloe sitting side by side at the piano, clearly taken from a hidden vantage point. Final warning. Next time, it won't be just a text. I stared at the photo for a long time, and then it hit me. Whether I knew it or not, both Chloe and I were caught in something far more complicated than a simple contract. 2 a.m, and the campus was as still as a painting. I stood under a tree outside the music department, looking up at the single-lit window on the 3rd floor. The sound of a piano drifted down, hesitant and broken. The familiar nocturne, but tonight it was fractured, stopping and starting, filled with a disorder and pain I'd never heard before. This wasn't the first time I'd heard her playing late at night. Since I learned the practice room was her secret hideout, I'd sometimes come by just to stand below and listen before leaving. But tonight was different. The beam of a security guard's flashlight swept past, and I ducked into the shadows. When he was gone, I slipped through a side entrance I knew. I'd memorized the code from Chloe's key card that night. She was drunk. The 3rd floor hallway was pitch black, except for a sliver of light from under the practice room door. As I crept closer, the piano stopped. It was replaced by a muffled sob. I froze. Chloe was crying. The door wasn't fully closed. Through the crack, I could see her slumped over the piano, her shoulders trembling. Moonlight streamed in, outlining her slender frame. The photo album I made her was open on the piano, turned to a specific page, a photo of her and her mother. "Mom," she choked out, "I miss you so much." My heart clenched. I was about to turn and leave when there was a loud crash from inside. Chloe had swept the album to the floor, shattering the glass frame. "Why did you leave me?" she screamed into the empty room. "Why? Did you leave me all alone?" Her voice was raw and broken. She knelt, picking up the pieces of glass. A sharp shard cut her finger. A drop of blood fell onto the white marble floor, like a tiny ruby. I couldn't watch anymore. I pushed the door open. "Chloe." She jerked her head up, tear tracks shimmering on her face in the moonlight. "What are you doing here?" Her voice was hoarse. "I was passing by." I knelt beside her, gently taking the glass from her hand. "Let me see your hand." She instinctively hid it behind her back. "It's none of your business." "Don't be difficult." I pulled her hand forward. The cut wasn't deep, but it was long and still bleeding. I took a tissue from my pocket and pressed it against the wound. "This needs to be disinfected and bandaged." I said I don't need. She tried to pull her hand away, but I held it tighter. "Is there a first aid kit in here?" "In the cabinet." The kit was well stocked. I expertly cleaned the cut with an antiseptic wipe, applied some ointment, and wrapped it in gauze. Through it all, Chloe was silent, only hissing softly when the antiseptic stung. "There." I let go of her hand. "Keep it dry for a few days." Chloe looked down at her bandaged finger. "You know how to do that?" "Yeah, my mom's a doctor." I picked up a few things. "My mom." Her voice was as light as a feather. "She used to bandage me up like this. I was always falling down as a kid, and she would." Her voice broke, and the tears started again. I felt helpless. I just handed her another tissue. "What's today?" I asked softly. "The day she passed." Chloe wiped her eyes, but fresh tears took their place. "It's been 5 years. My dad never visits her grave. He says it's too painful. But if I don't go, then no one will remember her." I picked up the shattered album from the floor, carefully removing the photograph and shaking off the glass fragments. "You look a lot like her." Chloe took the photo, her fingers gently tracing her mother's face. "She was a much better pianist than me. Gentle, patient, not like me. You're a great pianist. It's different." She shook her head. "She played because she loved it. I play because it's what she wanted." I quietly gathered the rest of the broken glass, giving her space. Chloe sat at the piano, clutching the photograph, the moonlight tracing the lines of her face, tears still clinging to her eyelashes. "You know," she said suddenly, "my father never lets me mention my mother in front of him. He packed away all the photos like she never existed." "Why?" "I don't know." She gave a bitter smile. "Maybe it hurts too much. Or maybe there's something I don't know." I thought of what Marcus Vance had said at the hospital about making up for past mistakes. I had a theory, but I kept it to myself. Her fingers rested on the keys, playing a few notes before stopping. "This is the first time I played since my birthday. Because your hand was hurt. Because..." She bit her lip. "You asked me that day why I brought you here. You said you were bored and looking for entertainment." "I lied," she said, looking me straight in the eye. "I brought you here because this is the most real place for me. I wanted you to see the real me, not the horrible Chloe from school." My heart started to beat faster. "Why me?" "I don't know." She looked away. "Maybe because you were never afraid of me. Everyone else either fawns all over me or hates me. But you just look at me like I'm a normal person." In the moonlight, she did look like a normal girl. Fragile, lost, and desperate to be understood. Not the campus queen, not the demanding princess, just a daughter who missed her mom. "You should go," she said suddenly. We have class tomorrow." "What about you?" "I'll stay a little longer." Her fingers returned to the keys. "Don't worry, I won't play. My hand hurts." I stood up, hesitating. "That photo album. I can make you a new one." Chloe shook her head. "You don't have to. I have a digital copy of that picture." She paused. "But could you only clean up the glass?" "Of course." I found a broom and dustpan and carefully swept every corner. Chloe sat by the window, quietly watching me. For a moment, it felt like we were just two college students, not an employer and her lackey. "Ethan," she called my name as I was sweeping. "Yeah." The MIT offer. "You really don't want to go?" I stopped and thought for a moment. "It's not that I don't want to go. It's that I don't want to go like that. If I ever go to a top school, I want it to be because of my own abilities, not because someone arranged it for me." Chloe nodded thoughtfully. "My father, he's used to controlling everything, including your life. Especially my life," she said with a bitter smile. "What school I attend, what I major in, who my friends are. He has to have a say in everything." "Including Bradley Morgan?" I asked tentatively. Chloe's expression turned to ice. "Who told you about Bradley?" "No one." I just guessed, I said, continuing to sweep. The way he looks at you. It's not like a typical suitor. His father is the deputy mayor. He has business with my dad, Chloe said, her voice filled with disgust. The two families are a good match. My dad would marry me off to him tomorrow if he could. I straightened up. So that day in the practice room, when Bradley gave you a final warning. What warning? Chloe shot to her feet. He confronted you? I realized my mistake, but it was too late. Chloe strode over and snatched the broom from my hands. Ethan, tell me the truth. I had no choice but to show her the anonymous texts on my phone. Her face grew darker with each message she read. Finally, she threw my phone onto the piano. That bastard, she seethed. I knew he was the one who took those pictures. Pictures? Someone posted on the campus subreddit last week. Said we were having a secret rendezvous in the practice room. It had a blurry photo, Chloe said, rubbing her temples. I had the mods take it down, but I didn't know he was harassing you, too. I picked up my phone. The screen was cracked. It's fine. I don't care. Well, I do. Chloe's voice rose. Who does he think he is, threatening you? Who is he to interfere in my life? She was shaking with anger. I instinctively reached out and put a hand on her shoulder. Calm down. I'm sick of it. She shrugged my hand off and started pacing. I'm sick of being treated like a pawn. Sick of everyone else making decisions for me. Seeing her so enraged, I suddenly understood why she was always so sharp and defensive. It was the instinctual rebellion of someone who had been controlled her whole life. Then say no, I said calmly. Tell your father you don't like Bradley. Tell him you want to make your own choices. Chloe stopped and stared at me like I was an alien. You don't know my father. With him, there's no such thing as no. Then find a way to make him accept it, I said, taking a step closer. Chloe, you're stronger than you think. Chloe just stared at me, the anger in her eyes slowly replaced by something else. In the moonlight, our shadows merged on the wall. You know, she said softly, sometimes I really envy you. Envy me? I laughed. For what? Being broke? Or getting bossed around by you every day? For being free, she said seriously. For daring to be yourself, daring to say no. Her words hit me hard. Free? If she knew the real reason I signed that contract, the principles I'd abandoned for my mother's medical bills, would she still say that? It's getting late, I said, changing the subject. We should really go. Chloe nodded and picked up her bag. I closed and locked the practice room door, then followed her downstairs. The campus was silent, our footsteps echoing in the empty hallway. Ethan, she said, turning around when we reached the ground floor. Thank you for tonight, for not pretending you didn't see. I knew what she meant. Thank you for not ignoring my breakdown, for treating me like a person instead of princess. But all I did was shrug. The contract doesn't say I have to pretend not to see things. Chloe rolled her eyes, but the corner of her mouth tilted up. You and your money. We walked side by side toward the dorms. The night air was cool. Chloe hugged her arms and shivered. My first instinct was to offer her my jacket, but then I realized I was only wearing a t-shirt. Cold? I asked. A little. She glanced at me. And don't even think about giving me your shirt. You've been watching too many rom-coms. I laughed. How did you know what I was thinking? Because you're that kind of Boy Scout, she said, mimicking my voice. Oh, Chloe's cold. I must give her my jacket, even if I freeze to death. Am I really that predictable? Even more so. She suddenly picked up the pace. If we walk faster, we won't be cold. We practically jogged back to the women's dorm. Chloe stopped at the entrance, hesitating. You don't have to pick me up tomorrow. I can get to class on my own. Okay. But for lunch, Lily said the dining hall opened a new dessert bar. I hear the mango crepe cake is good. She wasn't looking at me. If you happen to be free. I suppressed a smile. As it happens, I don't have class at noon. Whatever, she said, turning to swipe her card. Good night. Good night, Chloe. I watched her disappear into the building, then let out a long breath. The Chloe from tonight, vulnerable, angry, real, was more. More what? I asked myself. More heart-wrenching? More someone I wanted to protect? Or more someone I didn't dare finish the thought. The contract had another year and a half to go, and I was already starting to dread the day it would end. The next day at noon, I got to the dining hall 20 minutes early to save a table. The line at the new dessert bar was long, mostly girls. I reluctantly got in line, drawing a few curious looks. Ethan, a sweet voice said from behind me. I turned to see Tiffany Reed, the winner of the campus singing competition and another one of the university's unofficial campus queens. It really is you, she smiled. I didn't know you had a sweet tooth. Not really, I said awkwardly. I'm getting it for a friend. A girlfriend? She asked, her big eyes blinking. No, just a friend. Tiffany's smile widened. Perfect. I'm getting dessert too. We can wait together. For the next 10 minutes, Tiffany chattered away, asking about my classes and campus activities. She was beautiful, and her voice was nice, but all I could think about was whether Chloe was getting impatient. When we finally got to the front, I ordered 2 mango crepe cakes, and Tiffany got a tiramisu. "Ethan, can I get your number?" she asked as I was paying. "My club has a performance next week. I'd love for you to come. I'm probably busy." "Don't say no so fast," she said, leaning closer. Her strong perfume was overwhelming. "How much of your time can Chloe possibly take up?" I was about to answer when an icy voice cut in from the side. "All of it." Chloe had appeared next to the dessert bar, her arms crossed, her expression glacial. She was wearing a black fitted t-shirt and denim shorts, her long hair in a high ponytail. She looked fierce and beautiful. Tiffany's smile faltered for a second, but she recovered quickly. "Chloe, what a coincidence. Ethan and I just ran into each other." "Yes, a coincidence," Chloe said, her tone cold enough to freeze water. "Ethan, my cake." I quickly handed her the dessert bag. She took it and turned to leave. I nodded at Tiffany and hurried after Chloe. "Why are you walking so fast?" I caught up to her. "I thought we were having lunch together." "Change of plans," she said without turning around. "I'm not hungry anymore." "Is this because of Tiffany?" Chloe stopped dead in her tracks and spun around to glare at me. "Because of her? What, you think I care who you talk to?" "I didn't say that. You can give your number to whoever you want. What does it have to do with me?" Her voice was getting louder. "The contract doesn't say you're not allowed to talk to other girls." A few passing students stared at us. I lowered my voice. "Chloe, calm down. People are looking. Let them look." She shook off my hand. "The whole campus already knows you're my paid dog, anyway." Her words hit me like a bucket of ice water. I stopped walking, my face a blank mask. "So that's what you really think of me?" Chloe seemed to realize what she'd said. Her lips moved, but no apology came out. She turned and stormed off. I stood there, the dessert bag suddenly feeling incredibly heavy in my hand. The fragile, vulnerable Chloe from the practice room last night seemed like a figment of my imagination. Today, the cruel princess was back. Maybe this was the real her. Maybe last night was just a momentary lapse. Maybe all we would ever be was a business arrangement. I turned and walked in the opposite direction, dumping the extra crepe cake into a trash can. For the next 3 days, Chloe didn't contact me, and I didn't reach out to her. The campus was big enough to avoid someone if you really wanted to. On Thursday afternoon, I was studying in the library when Lily sat down across from me. "Is the silent treatment fun?" she asked, getting straight to the point. I closed my laptop. "What's silent treatment?" "Don't play dumb." Lily rolled her eyes. "Chloe has been a walking storm cloud for 3 days. Even I can't stand it. What does that have to do with me?" "Ethan," Lily's tone turned serious. "Do you know why she reacted that way to Tiffany?" I shook my head. "Because Tiffany is Bradley Morgan's cousin," Lily said in a low voice. "Bradley has been telling her to get close to you, to gather evidence that you're only with Chloe for the money." I scoffed. "So, the cousins are taking turns?" "Tiffany is no saint, but Chloe's reaction." Lily looked at me meaningfully. "Don't you think it was a little excessive?" I looked away. "She just doesn't like other people playing with her toys." "Do you really believe that?" Lily raised an eyebrow. "Then why have you been walking around like a zombie for the past 3 days?" "I have not." "Please," she cut me off. "You two are like a couple of kindergartners who just had a fight." She pulled an envelope from her bag and pushed it across the table. "Chloe asked me to give this to you." I opened it. Inside were 2 tickets to a piano recital at the city concert hall for the following night. "She told me to tell you," Lily said, mimicking Chloe's haughty tone. "The contract stipulates that you must attend all of the client's public performances." I couldn't help but smile. She's still so bossy. "But you're still going to go, aren't you?" I didn't answer, but I carefully put the tickets in my wallet. Friday night, I arrived at the concert hall half an hour early. The seats Chloe had given me were excellent, 5th row, center. As I sat down, I noticed that most of the audience were well-dressed, middle-aged people. They looked important. The lights dimmed. After a brief introduction, Chloe walked onto the stage. She was stunning, a deep burgundy gown, her black hair down, looking like a classical painting under the spotlight. She bowed, her eyes scanning the audience. They paused for a fraction of a second when they met mine. Then she sat at the piano. She began with Chopin's heroic Polonaise. Her playing was powerful and passionate, nothing like the spoiled princess I knew. As I watched her long fingers dance across the keys, I remembered what she had said that night. She played because she loved it. I played because it's what she wanted. But in this moment, Chloe looked like she was truly enjoying the music. Halfway through the program, she played something I never expected, Mariage d'Amour. It was a popular, almost cliché piano piece, rarely performed at serious concerts. But Chloe's interpretation was incredibly moving, impossibly gentle. When the last note faded, the applause was deafening. Chloe stood and bowed, her eyes once again sweeping over my section, a small smile on her lips. After the performance, I waited in the lobby. Chloe was surrounded by a crowd of well-wishers and seemed to be stuck. I was considering leaving when a familiar voice called out from behind me. "Ethan, it really is you." I turned to see Tiffany Reed in a pink cocktail dress, smiling brightly. "What a coincidence. You came to the concert too?" "Yes," I said curtly. "Chloe was amazing, wasn't she?" she said, stepping closer. "By the way, about that performance I mentioned." "Ethan," Chloe's cold voice cut in. She had somehow escaped the crowd and was standing a few feet away, her expression icy. "Chloe," Tiffany greeted her enthusiastically. "You were incredible tonight." "Thank you," Chloe said, not even looking at her. She spoke directly to me. "The car is waiting outside. Let's go." I nodded at Tiffany and followed Chloe out. As we left the concert hall, the night breeze rustled the hem of Chloe's gown. "You played beautifully," I said, breaking the silence. "Especially Mariage d'Amour." She raised an eyebrow. "You know that piece?" "My mom likes it," I smiled. "She always said she wanted it played at my wedding." Chloe's expression shifted subtly. "Oh." A black sedan pulled up and a driver got out to open the door. I realized this wasn't Chloe's usual Porsche. "Get in," Chloe said. "Where are we going?" "My father wants to see you." I froze. Now. She got into the car. "Don't keep him waiting." The car's interior smelled of rich leather, the seats wider and more comfortable than her sports car. Chloe sat in the corner, staring out the window. I noticed her fingers tapping restlessly on the armrest, as if playing a silent melody. "Why the sudden meeting?" I asked. "I don't know." She kept her gaze fixed outside. "He showed up at the concert unexpectedly. He saw you. And then he said he wanted to see you." She finally turned her head. "It's probably about the MIT offer." The car drove towards the city outskirts, eventually stopping in front of a villa I'd never seen before. It was 10 times more luxurious than her apartment at the Waterford. A massive fountain, meticulously landscaped lawns, and uniformed staff lined up at the entrance. Chloe led me through a grand foyer and into a study. Marcus Vance was sitting behind a huge mahogany desk, reading a document. "Dad, Ethan is here," Chloe said softly. Marcus Vance looked up, his sharp eyes landing on me. "Ethan, sit." I sat across from him. Chloe remained standing by my side, like a defendant awaiting sentencing. "The performance was good tonight," Marcus said to his daughter. "Mariage d'amour. Your mother loved that piece." Chloe's body tensed slightly. "I know. I asked Ethan here to discuss his future plans," he said, turning his attention to me. "Have you given any more thought to the MIT offer?" I took a deep breath. "Mr. Vance, I appreciate the offer, but I've decided not to accept the arrangement." Chloe looked up at me sharply, a flash of surprise in her eyes. Marcus Vance raised an eyebrow. "And your reason?" "I want to earn the things I want through my own abilities," I said, meeting his gaze. "Not through someone else's charity." "Interesting." He leaned back in his chair. "Do you have any idea how many people would kill for an opportunity like this?" "I do. But, Ethan," he cut me off, "I've reviewed your academic record and your project experience. You are more than qualified for MIT. This isn't charity. It's an investment." "An investment?" "The Vance Corporation needs talent like you." He steepled his fingers on the desk. "You can come work for the company immediately after graduation. Excellent starting salary and benefits." I finally understood his motive. He wanted to use this opportunity to tie me to his corporation. But why? Because of my mother? Or because of... I glanced at Chloe. She was staring intently at a spot on the carpet, her face pale. "Thank you for the vote of confidence," I replied cautiously, "but I haven't decided on my future career path yet." "That's fine. You can take your time to consider," Marcus said, surprisingly agreeable. "By the way, I hear your mother's condition has improved." "Yes, thanks to the new medicine." "Good." He smiled. "Eleanor and I, we're old friends. It pained me to hear she was ill." "Eleanor?" Such an intimate way to refer to her. I looked at Chloe. Her expression was even more strained. "Ethan," Marcus said suddenly, "what do you think of my daughter?" The blunt question caught me completely off guard. "What?" "I'm asking," he said, enunciating each word. "What kind of a person do you think Chloe is?" Chloe looked up sharply. "Dad." "Quiet." Marcus didn't even look at her. "Ethan, answer me." I took a deep breath and decided to be honest. "She's proud, willful, and has a terrible temper." Chloe's nails dug into her palms. "But she's also smart, strong, and talented," I continued. "Most importantly, she's more fragile and lonely than anyone imagines." The room was silent. Marcus Vance studied me thoughtfully. As for Chloe, I didn't dare look at her. Interesting, Marcus said finally. You can go. Chloe, you stay. I have something to discuss with you. I stood to leave. Chloe walked me to the door. Out of earshot of the staff, she whispered, tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock. The practice room. What? Don't ask questions. Just be there. She said it quickly, then turned and went back into the study. On the way back to campus, I kept replaying the night's events in my head. Chloe's performance, her father's questions, the strange invitation. None of it felt real. What felt even less real was the fact that my heart was pounding at the thought of seeing Chloe alone tomorrow. Saturday morning at 9:30, I stood outside the music department building, staring up at the third-floor practice room window. The curtains were drawn. Chloe's cryptic message, 10 o'clock, the practice room, had kept me up all night. Arriving 15 minutes early was a habit, whether for class, for her, or for mysterious invitations like this. The early autumn sun felt warm on my shoulders. I took a deep breath and pushed open the heavy doors. The third-floor hallway was silent. My footsteps echoed. The practice room door was slightly ajar, a sliver of sunlight escaping from the crack. I knocked softly. No answer. Chloe. I pushed the door open. The room was empty. Sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, casting a golden glow on the grand piano. On top of it sat a thermos and a note. Wait. See, I picked up the thermos and unscrewed the cap. The rich aroma of coffee hit me. Americano, a splash of cream, no sugar. Exactly how I liked it. She remembered. I took a sip. The temperature was perfect. On the small sofa in the corner were a few books on photography and photo editing, their pages filled with Chloe's elegant notes. She was actually practicing the techniques I'd shown her. At 10 o'clock sharp, the door opened. Chloe walked in wearing a simple white t-shirt and jean shorts, her hair in a casual ponytail. Her makeup-free face was almost translucent in the sunlight. She held 2 paper bags. Seeing me, she raised an eyebrow. Right on time. Contractual obligation. No being late. I held up the thermos. Thanks for this. Don't flatter yourself. It was on the way. She tossed the bags to me. Breakfast. Inside were still warm egg sandwiches and a fruit salad. I looked up surprised. You bought these? What? You think they fell from the sky? She sat at the piano, her back to me. Eat up. We need to talk. We ate in silence. Chloe sipped from another coffee, her fingers tapping out a few random notes on the keys. Sunlight filtered through her hair, casting dappled shadows on her cheeks. What did your dad say to you last night? I broke the silence. Her fingers froze on the keys. Nothing. The usual. She turned around. Ethan, do you remember how long it's been since we signed the contract? The question was unexpected. I did a quick mental calculation. 1 year, 7 months, and 18 days. You keep precise track, she said with a soft laugh. Do you know how much time is left? 1 year, 4 months, and 12 days. A flicker of an unreadable emotion crossed her face. Are you that eager for it to be over? It's not that I'm eager. It's just. I chose my words carefully. I'm used to keeping track of time. Habit. She repeated the word as if tasting it. What if I told you the contract could be terminated early? My heart sank. What do you mean? Exactly what it sounds like. She stood and walked to the window. My dad gave you the MIT offer. You can leave anytime. The sunlight outlined her slender frame. I noticed she was thinner than when we'd first met, the hollows of her collarbones casting deep shadows. I told you I don't want to go. Why? She turned to face me. It's MIT. The opportunity of a lifetime. Because The words caught in my throat. What was I going to say? Because I'll miss you? Because I've gotten used to you ordering me around every day? Because the crying girl in the practice room that night was more real and precious than any prestigious degree? Because the contract isn't over yet, I said finally. Chloe's expression was unreadable. And what if I said I could terminate it? Then it would depend on the reason. Do I need a reason? She walked back to the piano, her fingers tracing the keys. The client has the right to terminate the agreement at any time. Remember? Of course I remembered. I could practically recite the damn thing. But right now it felt like a gag, stopping me from saying what I really wanted. Do whatever you want, I said, putting down my coffee. I'm just a hired help. Chloe's fingers slammed down on the keys, a jarring, dissonant chord echoing through the room. That's right. You're just the hired help. Her laugh was cold. Then why did you say those things to my father last night? Fragile, lonely. What do you know about me? I know you cry when you play the nocturne. I know you secretly went to the hospital to check on my mom on your own birthday. I know you pretend to be cold when you actually care. I stood up, my voice rising. I know you better than you think, Chloe. The room was dead silent. Chloe's eyes were wide, her lips trembling, as if my words had shaken her to her core. Dust motes danced in the sunbeam between us. You. She started to speak, but the campus PA system crackled to life. Attention students and faculty, today is the 70th anniversary of our university's founding. The opening ceremony will be held in the main auditorium at 10:30 a.m. Chloe seized the interruption like a lifeline. Right, the anniversary celebration. Are you going? It was a blatant change of subject, but I played along. If you go, I go. Then let's go. She grabbed her bag. Lily said a famous alumnus is speaking. Should be interesting. We left the practice room, one after the other. The conversation we just had felt like a dream, one neither of us wanted to acknowledge upon waking. The celebration was more crowded than I expected. The auditorium was decorated with banners, the students a sea of colorful department t-shirts. As head of the arts committee, Chloe was immediately pulled backstage. I found a seat in the back and glanced at the program. Ethan, Lily popped up out of nowhere and sat next to me. You two made up? We weren't fighting. Please, she rolled her eyes. Chloe's been a nightmare all week, and then this morning she's suddenly calm. Who else could be the reason? I didn't respond. Lily continued, gossiping. By the way, did you hear Bradley Morgan is going to publicly confess his love for Chloe today? What? To who? To Chloe, silly. Lily lowered her voice. He's got 999 roses, a drone show. I heard even Mr. Vance gave his blessing. My fists clenched, my knuckles turning white. Does Chloe know? She knows. And she's furious, Lily said with a smirk. That's why she added a last-minute piano solo to the program. She's planning to slip out before he can make his move. The ceremony began. Speeches from the president, the alumni, the student representative. Chloe's piano solo was fifth. She wore a simple white dress and played a cheerful rendition of Fur Elise, a complete departure from her usual melancholic style. When she finished, she bowed, her eyes sweeping the audience and nodding slightly when she saw me. I was about to get up and find her backstage when the MC announced, and now, please welcome Student Government Vice President Bradley Morgan. Bradley walked onto the stage in a tailored suit, holding a massive bouquet of roses. I clenched my fists, ready to rush the stage at any moment. Distinguished faculty, administrators, fellow students. Bradley began a long, rambling speech about the university's history and his personal growth, with no mention of confession. I started to relax, thinking Lily's information was wrong. Just then, I smelled something burning. I turned and saw a wisp of black smoke curling up from behind the stage curtain. Fire, someone screamed. Instantly, flames shot up the curtain, spreading like a hungry red snake. The auditorium erupted in chaos, students screaming and stampeding for the exits. Through the thick smoke and flickering light, I saw Chloe still standing at the backstage entrance, frozen in shock. Chloe! I yelled, but my voice was lost in the noise. I fought my way against the tide of people, pushing toward the stage. The smoke was acrid, making my eyes stream. Bradley was long gone. The stage was a mess of burning equipment and collapsing sets. Chloe! I scrambled onto the stage, searching for her. Ethan, I'm here. A weak voice came from backstage. I ducked under the smoke and felt my way forward. Chloe was huddled in a corner, her leg pinned by a fallen lighting rig, her face pale. Hang on. I heaved the lighting rig up, pulling her free. A deep gash ran down her right leg, blood pouring from the wound. Can you walk? I helped her up. She tried, but winced in pain. No. Then you'll have to forgive me. I swept her into my arms and ran for the fire exit. The fire was growing, the heat scorching my back. Chloe was impossibly light, her arms wrapped tightly around my neck. We finally reached a side door, only to find it blocked by a collapsed scaffold. Damn it. I set Chloe down and threw my weight against the scaffold. It didn't budge. The thick smoke sent us into violent coughing fits, blurring our vision. Chloe's breathing grew ragged, her face flushed from the heat. Ethan, she gasped, grabbing my hand. You should go. Shut up. I pulled off my t-shirt, found a half-empty water bottle, soaked it, and pressed it to her nose and mouth. Hold on tight. I picked her up again and charged toward a set lift on the other side of the stage. It was our only way out, a passage leading under the stage to the basement, and from there outside. The narrow tunnel was even thicker with smoke. I hunched over, shielding Chloe, stumbling forward. Suddenly, there was a deafening crash from above. Part of the ceiling had collapsed. On pure instinct, I threw Chloe to the ground and covered her with my body. Burning debris rained down on my back. The pain so intense, I bit back a scream. Chloe was trembling beneath me, her tears and sweat mingling on her face. Almost there. I gritted my teeth and pushed forward, my lungs on fire. Finally, we saw a sliver of light, the basement exit. I used the last of my strength to slam the door open, and fresh air rushed in. We collapsed onto the grass outside, gasping for breath. In the distance, sirens wailed. Chloe struggled to sit up. When she saw my back, she gasped, "Ethan, you're back." I tried to turn to look, but a wave of dizziness washed over me. The world spun, and the last thing I saw was Chloe's terrified face. When I woke up, all I could see was a blinding white ceiling. A hospital. I tried to sit up, but a searing pain shot through my back. "Don't move," a familiar voice commanded. Chloe's face came into view. Her eyes were red and swollen, like she'd been crying. She was in a hospital gown, her right leg bandaged, and she was holding a cup of water. "Water," I rasped. She carefully propped my head up and helped me take a few sips. The water was perfectly lukewarm. How long was I out? I looked around the private room. It was already dark outside. 6 hours, Chloe said, putting the cup down. "Smoke inhalation and second-degree burns on your back. The doctor said if you'd arrived 10 minutes later, your lungs would have been shot. And you?" I looked at her leg. "Superficial. It's been treated." She bit her lip. "Why? Why did you run in there?" "The contract. It says I have to protect the client's safety," I said, try for a joke. Chloe shot to her feet, knocking over the cup of water. "To hell with your contract." Her voice trembled. "You almost died, do you know that?" I was stunned by her outburst. She stood there, her hands clenched, tears welling in her eyes. If you..." She couldn't finish, just turned and limped out of the room, slamming the door behind her. A few minutes later, a nurse came in to change my dressings. She told me the fire was out, and, thanks to the quick evacuation, there were only a dozen minor injuries. Chloe and I were the most seriously hurt. "That Miss Vance," the nurse said as she worked, "she sat by your bed from the moment you two were brought in. Refused to let anyone treat her own leg until a doctor threatened to have you transferred. Only then did she cooperate." A warmth spread through my chest. "Where is she now?" "I'm not sure. Probably back in her own room," the nurse smiled. "She specifically requested you two be put on the same floor." After she finished, I tried to get out of bed. My back screamed in protest, but it was bearable. The hallway was quiet. I used the wall for support, slowly making my way down the hall, looking for Chloe's room. As I passed the nurse's station, I heard a hushed voice. "No, really, I can do it myself." It was Chloe. I peeked around the corner. She was in the small staff kitchen, standing in front of a rice cooker, awkwardly trying to measure out rice and water. "Miss Vance, please let us do that," a nurse pleaded. "Your leg is injured. You shouldn't be standing." I said, "I'm fine." Chloe insisted, pressing the cook button. "And none of you are to touch this pot." The nurses exchanged a look of resignation and left. Chloe stood there alone, staring at the rice cooker. I quietly retreated back down the hall, a strange warmth spreading through me. Half an hour later, I was propped up in bed reading when the door opened softly. Chloe came in carrying a tray. On it was a bowl of something that could generously be called kanji. "Eat," she said, placing the tray on the bedside table without looking at me. I stared at the dubious-looking mush. "What is this?" "Kanji with pork and century egg," she said stiffly. "The hospital cafeteria ran out, so I made some." I picked up the spoon and took a bite. It was brutally salty, the egg wasn't chopped, the pork was undercooked, and the rice was a mix of raw and mush. It was possibly the worst thing I had ever eaten. "How is it?" Chloe finally looked at me, a flicker of an emotion I'd never seen before, insecurity, in her eyes. "It's good," I said, taking another large spoonful. "Really?" She visibly relaxed, a small smile touching her lips. "You're lying? It must be awful." "No," I said seriously. "It's the best kanji I've ever had." Chloe's face turned bright red. She pulled up a chair and sat down. "It was my first time cooking," she mumbled. "I could tell," I said, smiling as I took another bite. "Is the pot okay?" "I burned one," she admitted, a rare look of embarrassment on her face. "Don't tell anyone." We looked at each other and smiled, like two kids sharing a secret. Outside, the moonlight streamed in, casting a soft, silver glow over the moment. The next morning, I was woken by a commotion. Chloe was at my door, arguing with someone. I said no. He needs to rest. "Chloe, just 5 minutes." It was Lily's voice. "Not even 1 minute." I pushed myself up. "Chloe, what's going on?" She turned, her brow furrowed. "Lily is insisting on seeing you." And she brought a bunch of reporters. "Reporters?" Lily took the opportunity to squeeze into the room. "Ethan, you're trending." She held up her phone. On the screen was a shaky video of me carrying Chloe out of the fire, with the headline, "Real-life hero, a fairy tale romance between a wealthy heiress and her working-class boyfriend." The comments section had exploded. People had identified us and were digging up all the old posts from the campus subreddit. "It was Bradley," Chloe said through gritted teeth. "He's trying to use the media pressure." "That's not all," Lily said, showing me another news article. Tiffany Reed gave an interview, saying you were only with Chloe for her money. She even showed them a photo of a contract. My heart seized. What contract? Not our contract. Chloe shook her head. It's a fake, but it looks convincing. The door opened again, and a man in a sharp suit walked in. Miss Vance, your father sent me to handle this. Chloe nodded. Mr. Zhang, thank you for coming. The lawyer, Mr. Zhang, nodded at me. Mr. Cole, we will be issuing a cease and desist letter regarding the defamatory statements online. In the meantime, Mr. Vance suggests you refrain from giving any interviews. I wasn't planning on it, I said with a grim smile. For the next 2 days, Chloe practically lived in my hospital room. She took calls, dealt with the lawyer, and even drafted a public statement herself. I focused on recovering, occasionally stealing glances at her determined profile as she worked. On the third afternoon, Lily brought an unexpected delivery. Ethan, you have a package. From the United States. I opened a large envelope. It was an acceptance letter for the master's program in computer science at the University of California, Berkeley. Full scholarship. You applied to Berkeley? Chloe was suddenly standing behind me, her voice strange. Yeah, I got the email notification right before the fire. I didn't expect the official letter so soon. Chloe was silent for a moment. When did you apply? Last month. I was planning to... I hesitated. I was going to tell you after the contract was over. Oh, she said, turning to walk to the window. Congratulations. Lily looked from me to Chloe, then wisely made her exit. The room was silent, the space between us filled with a new, unspoken tension. You were planning to leave all along, Chloe said, her back still to me. Chloe, you don't have to explain. She turned, her face once again a cool, indifferent mask. The contract has 1 year and 4 months left, but you can leave early. I'll have the finance department settle your final payment. That's not what I meant. Then what did you mean? Her voice rose. To rush into a fire to save me, while secretly applying to schools overseas. To eat the kanji I made you, while planning your exit. Ethan, what do you want? What do I want? The question hit me like a physical blow. I wanted a relationship that wasn't defined by contract. I wanted to be her equal. I wanted the real Chloe from the practice room. But I couldn't say any of that. I need time to think was all I could manage. Chloe let out a cold laugh. What's there to think about? Berkeley, a full ride. It's a dream come true. Her words sounded eerily like her father's. Our contract can be terminated at any time. Are you that eager for me to go? Does it matter what I want? She grabbed her bag. You've always been free, Ethan. She strode out of the room, leaving me with the acceptance letter. Outside, the sun was setting, casting a final golden ray on the letter. The university's embossed name glittered like a distant, unattainable dream. That evening, the nurse brought my dinner along with a thermos. Miss Vance asked me to give this to you. I opened it. It was kanji, perfectly cooked this time, clearly made by a professional. Underneath was a note. The hospital food is terrible. See, I couldn't help but smile as I took a spoonful. It was delicious, but for some reason, it couldn't compare to the burnt, salty mush she'd made herself. My phone vibrated. A text from an unknown number. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. The practice room. One last conversation. One last conversation. The words felt like a knife in my chest. I stared at the screen until it went dark, reflecting my own pale face. Tomorrow, I would have my answer. Whatever it was, I knew that for the rest of my life, I would miss the girl who cried in the practice room, who fumbled in the kitchen, who stubbornly stood guard in my hospital room. The morning sun cut a golden slash across my hospital bed. I stared at the text on my phone. One last conversation. The words pricking my eyes. A nurse knocked and entered with my discharge papers. Mr. Cole, you're all set to go. Remember to change the dressing on your back daily and come back for a follow-up in 2 weeks. I robotically signed the forms and packed my few belongings. The Berkeley acceptance letter sat on the nightstand. After a moment's hesitation, I shoved it into my backpack. Outside the hospital, the early autumn air was cool against my face. I checked the time, 8:40 a.m. Over an hour until the last conversation. The campus looked unchanged, as if the fire had never happened. Students rushed to class, couples strolled under the trees. Only the police tape around the main auditorium served as a reminder of the chaos. I arrived at the music department half an hour early. The third-floor practice room was dark and quiet. Chloe wasn't there yet. I sat on a bench in the hallway and pulled out my phone, habitually opening my notes app. The Chloe memo had grown to over 100 entries. Hates green bell peppers, but is okay with red and yellow ones. Coffee. Americano, 1 cream, no sugar. Fiddles with the hair behind her right ear when nervous. Birthday September 20th. Anniversary of mother's death. Handle with care. Prefers Chopin to Mozart. My finger scrolled to the last entry. Added yesterday. Burns kanji but insists on making it herself. Refuses help. I closed the app, and my phone's wallpaper appeared. A countdown timer. 1 year, 4 months, 6 days until contract ends. I had set it the day I signed, a reminder of when I'd be free. I don't know when it had transformed from a promise of liberation into a source of dread. Footsteps echoed in the stairwell. I quickly locked my phone and looked up. Chloe was walking toward me in a black sweatsuit, her hair in a loose ponytail. Her makeup-free face looked pale in the morning light. She was holding 2 coffees. She paused when she saw me. "You're early." She handed one to me. Couldn't sleep. I took the cup. It was warm. "Is your leg okay?" "Yeah." She unlocked the door. "Just a scratch." The practice room was the same as always. Sunlight streamed through the windows, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air. Chloe placed the coffees on the piano and stood with her back to me for a moment. "Have you decided?" she asked suddenly. "About Berkeley." I took a deep breath. "My mom. Her condition has gotten worse." Chloe spun around. "When did this happen?" "The hospital called last night." I tightened my grip on the coffee cup. "The doctor said the current treatment isn't working anymore. They recommend an experimental therapy, but it's only available overseas." "So you're going?" It wasn't a question. The U.S. has better medical facilities, and Berkeley is offering a full scholarship. I struggled to find the right words, but I could affirm my enrollment. "We can finish the contract first." Chloe let out a cold laugh. "What contract?" "The one between us." "That became void a long time ago." She cut me off. "The moment you ran into that fire." I looked up at her, confused. She walked to the window, the sunlight outlining her slender frame. "No one risks their life for a contract, Ethan. We both know that." My heart hammered against my ribs. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. "Give me your phone," she said suddenly, holding out her hand. "What?" "Your phone. Give it to me." I hesitated, then handed it over. She took it and expertly typed in the password, 0920, her birthday. I'd forgotten she'd changed it when she set the ringtone. She opened the Notes app, and my heart stopped. She was reading everything. Chloe scrolled through the list, her expression softening from surprise into something complex and gentle. "So this is your work log?" she asked softly. "The contract required me to be familiar with the client's preferences." I mumbled, my defense weak. She grunted, then hit the home button. The countdown wallpaper appeared. She stared at the screen for a long time. So long I thought time had stopped. 1 year, 4 months, and 6 days. She read the numbers, her voice trembling slightly. "You've been counting down the days to get away from me." "Not to get away from you. To get your freedom." "I know." She tossed the phone back to me. "Well, congratulations. You're free early." "Chloe, when are you leaving?" She cut me off, her voice regaining its usual coolness. "Next week, probably. I have to arrange for my mother's transfer." "Fine. The contract is officially terminated as of today." She walked to the piano, her fingers tracing the keys. "Your final payment will be processed, and you don't have to worry about the medical bills. My father has already taken care of it." I clutched my phone, the countdown timer searing my eyes. "Is there nothing else you want to say?" "Like what?" "Like," I swallowed hard, "like asking me to stay." Chloe's fingers froze above the keys, trembling. "Why would I ask you to stay?" "Because..." The words wouldn't come. "Because I love watching you play the piano. Because I'm used to you bossing me around. Because that burnt kanji was the warmest thing I've ever eaten." "See? You don't even have a reason," Chloe sneered. "So let's drop the act. Berkeley is a great opportunity. Sunny California, a world-class university, a bright future." "What about you?" I interrupted. "What about Bradley Morgan? Doesn't your dad want you to marry him?" She spun around, fire in her eyes. "My life is none of your business." "I'm making it my business." I took a step forward. "That sociopath set the fire, spread rumors." "Where's your proof?" She challenged. "Do you have any? Or are you just looking for an excuse to convince yourself you're not running away?" "Running away?" "Yes. A deserter." Chloe advanced on me, her eyes flashing. "You wanted to leave all along. You just needed an excuse. And now you have the perfect one. Your mother's illness. How convenient." Her words were a punch to the gut. "Is that what you really think of me?" "What else am I supposed to think?" She scoffed. "Should I beg you to stay?" "Oh, Ethan, don't go. I can't live without you. Give me a break. You're just a contract employee." That last sentence was a knife to the heart. We stared at each other, the air in the room thick and heavy. Chloe's chest heaved, tears shimmering in her eyes before she forced them back. "Fine. That's fine," I said, my voice dangerously calm. I took a step back. "Since I'm just a contract employee, Consider this my official resignation. I turned and walked to the door. My hand was on the knob when Chloe's voice stopped me. Ethan. I paused, but didn't turn around. That day, in the fire, why did you come back for me? I was silent for a long moment. Because the contract required me to protect the client's safety. The moment the door clicked shut behind me, I heard a violent crash from inside. The sound of a fist slamming on piano keys, a mangled, dissonant chord of pure anguish. Stepping out of the music building, the sun was blinding. The campus buzzed with life, but I moved through it like a ghost, a gaping hole in my chest. Back in my dorm, Kevin was in the middle of a video game. Seeing me, he pulled off his headset. You're out? Dude, I heard you went viral for the whole hero thing. I ignored him and started packing. Kevin sensed something was wrong. What's up? Fight with Princess Chloe. The contract's terminated, I said curtly. I'm going to the States next week. What? So suddenly? My mom's condition got worse. She needs treatment over there. Kevin was quiet for a moment. And Chloe? She has nothing to do with me anymore, I said, zipping my suitcase shut with a violent tug. She never did. The next few days were a blur. I filed for a leave of absence from the university, arranged for housing at Berkeley, and coordinated my mother's medical transport. Everything moved with an unreal speed, as if an invisible hand were pushing me forward. Chloe didn't contact me. I didn't contact her. The subreddit threads about us were buried under news about the fire investigation and Bradley Morgan's campaign for student government president. The night before I left, I found myself wandering the campus, my feet taking me to the Waterford residences. The lights were on in Chloe's apartment. I could see a silhouette moving past the window. I stood there for a long time, watching until the lights went out. Then I turned and walked away. When I got back to my dorm, there was a paper bag by the door. Inside was the photo album I'd made her. On the inside cover, a new inscription, Safe Travels. See, the handwriting was perfect without a tremor. Just like her, always in control. The next morning, a taxi took me to the airport. As we passed the music building, I instinctively looked up at the third-floor practice room window. The curtains were drawn. Heading abroad, son? The driver asked cheerfully. Yeah, to the U.S. Great. Go get that education and come back to make us proud. I smiled but didn't answer. As the car turned the final corner of the campus, I thought I saw the curtain move. But it was probably just the wind. 15 hours later, the plane landed at San Francisco International Airport. I turned on my phone. A flood of messages poured in. Well wishes from classmates, advice from professors, an angry interrogation from Lily. But not a single message from Chloe. I turned off the phone and looked out at the California sun. 6,000 miles away, what was that proud girl doing right now? Was she in class? Playing the piano? Or had she already forgotten her contract employee? The habits in my notes app, the numbers on the countdown, the tears in the practice room. It all felt like a dream that had vanished the moment I woke up. 3 years later, at the UC Berkeley graduation ceremony, I stood at the podium as the departmental valedictorian. Below, my mother sat in a wheelchair, looking healthier than she had in years. The treatment had been a success. Finally, I want to thank all the people who helped me get here. My prepared speech ended there, but I paused, looking out toward the Golden Gate Bridge in the distance. Especially one person who taught me what it means to be brave, even though she has probably forgotten who I am. After the ceremony, my department head, Professor Smith, pulled me aside. So, Ethan, have you made a decision? That offer from Google is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I've decided to go back home, I said with a smile. A startup has offered me a more challenging position. Oh, which company is so lucky? Stardust AI, I said, handing him a business card. We just closed our series of funding. Professor Smith raised an eyebrow. And who's the founder? I am, I said, then added, along with a few friends from Berkeley. Wow, he clapped me on the shoulder. No wonder you turned down Google. Good luck to you, young man. On the way back to my apartment, my phone rang. An unknown number with a Chinese country code. Hello, Ethan, a familiar female voice said. It's Lily. I stopped in my tracks, memories from 3 years ago rushing back. Long time no see. I heard you graduated. Are you coming back? How did you know? The Vance Corporation has an investment fund for returning overseas talent. Your name was on the list. Lily paused. Chloe, she saw the list. My heart hammered against my ribs. And she wanted me to ask when you're coming back, where you're staying, what her plans are. Lily, I cut her off. Did she ask you to call? Or is this you? There was a long silence on the other end. Does it matter? Yes, I said, looking at the setting sun. If she wants to know, tell her to call me herself. I hung up, opened my phone's photo gallery, and scrolled to the very bottom, a screenshot of my old countdown wallpaper. I'd never deleted it. The screen read, 0 years, 0 months, 0 days until contract ends. But some things, it seemed, were never really over. Shanghai Pudong Airport, Terminal 2. I dragged my suitcase through customs, breathing in the air of my home country for the first time in 3 years. The June air was hot and humid, a world away from the dry California sun. Mr. Cole, over here. A young man in black-rimmed glasses held up a sign with my name. It was Kevin Johnson, my old college roommate, my business partner, and Stardust AI's first employee. I told you not to call me Mr. Cole. I punched his shoulder playfully. How are things at the company? All systems go. Just waiting for our CEO to take the helm, Kevin said, grabbing my suitcase. $5 million in Series F funding, office space in Lujiazui, a team of 20 top-tier engineers. I listened to his report, my eyes scanning the arrivals hall. Not much had changed, except for the celebrities on the billboards. Oh, right. Kevin suddenly lowered his voice. Something you should know. The Vance Corporation contacted us. They're interested in investing. My steps faltered. The Vance Corporation? Yeah, the real estate giant, Marcus Vance's company, Kevin said excitedly. They're expanding into the AI sector, and they like our tech. If we could get them on board. Turn them down, I cut him off. Stardust doesn't need their investment. Kevin's eyes widened. Are you crazy? This is the Vance Corporation. People would kill for their money. I said no. I pulled open the taxi door. Stardust will succeed on its technology, not by kissing up to the establishment. Kevin looked like he wanted to argue, but sighed and got in the car. As we drove onto the elevated highway, the Shanghai skyline was a surreal sight. 3 years ago, I was a broke student worried about medical bills. Now, I was returning as the CEO of my own company. My phone vibrated. A text from an unknown number. Welcome home. The Waterford, 2802. I'll be waiting. See. I stared at the sea, my heart skipping a beat. Chloe? How did she know I was back? I hesitated, then put the phone back in my pocket without replying. Want to swing by the office? Kevin asked. The team is dying to meet you. Tomorrow. I need to get over this jet lag. The car pulled up in front of a luxury apartment building. Kevin handled the check-in and handed me a key card. 28th floor. Great view. By the way, there's an AI summit tomorrow night. The organizers are insisting you attend. Decline it. I can't. You're one of the keynote speakers. Kevin pulled out an invitation. And people from the Vance Corporation will be there. I frowned and took the invitation. Sure enough, on the list of distinguished guests was the name Chloe Vance, her title listed as Vice President, Vance Corporation and founder, the Chloe Vance Foundation. When did she join her family's company? The question slipped out before I could stop it. Last year, I think. I hear she's a real shark, Kevin said, looking at me curiously. You know her? We were in college together. I said dismissively. What time tomorrow? 7 p.m. At the International Convention Center. Back in my apartment, I stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, looking out over the Huangpu River. The image of carrying Chloe out of the fire felt like it was yesterday. Now she was in 2802, and I was in 2801. Fate had a twisted sense of humor. My phone rang again. This time it was Lily. I hear you're back. It's Chloe's birthday tomorrow. Small party at her place at 7. Are you coming? Sorry, I have a work thing. What work is more important than Chloe's birthday? I didn't reply. I put down the phone and started unpacking. At the bottom of my suitcase was the photo album Chloe had returned to me, the pages now slightly yellowed with age. I opened it to the first page, a photo of her giving the speech at the freshman convocation, proud as a peacock in the sunlight. The next evening at 6:30, I stood outside the International Convention Center in a dark blue suit. The summit was packed with tech prodigies and venture capitalists. I took a glass of champagne from passing waiter and scanned the room. No sign of Chloe. Ethan? It really is you. A familiar voice came from behind me. I turned to see Lily in a pink cocktail dress, her eyes wide with surprise. Miss Chun, long time no see. I nodded politely. What are you doing here? I thought I invited you to. Her eyes widened in realization. Oh, you're here for the summit? Stardust AI. Oh my God, you're the founder. The one and only, I smiled. I take it Chloe didn't tell you. Lily's expression grew complicated. She doesn't really talk about you. Not since you left. Mr. Cole, an event organizer appeared at my side. Your keynote is in 5 minutes. Please follow me. I nodded at Lily. Excuse me. The speech was a success. I presented Stardust AI's breakthroughs in natural language processing, and the audience responded with thunderous applause. During the Q&A, a reporter raised her hand. Mr. Cole, why did you choose to return to start your company? Wouldn't you have had a better environment for development in the U.S.? Because this is my home, I said, my eyes finding a familiar figure who had just entered at the back of the room. And some people and some things are worth coming back for. Chloe was wearing a long white gown, her black hair swept up, revealing the elegant line of her neck. 3 years had stripped away her girlishness, replacing it with a mature grace. Our eyes met across the crowded room. She gave a slight nod, her expression as neutral as if she were looking at a stranger. After the summit, I was mobbed by investors and reporters. By the time I managed to break free, Chloe was gone. She went back to her birthday party, Lily said, appearing at my side. Are you really not going? It wouldn't be appropriate. I shook my head. We haven't spoken in 3 years. Do you know what she's been through these past 3 years? Lily asked suddenly. She took a semester off after the fire, saw a therapist. Then she threw herself into her studies, took over part of the family business, started a music foundation. Lily, I cut her off. What happened between us isn't that simple. Then show her with your actions, she said, exasperated. Ethan, do you know why Chloe came to the summit tonight? Because she heard you were speaking. The party was just an excuse. The only person she wanted to see was you. I stood frozen, the words hitting me like a physical blow. The address, I heard myself say. 20 minutes later, a taxi dropped me off at the Waterford. The doorman recognized me and let me in. Mr. Cole, good to see you again. The elevator ascended to the 28th floor, my heart pounding in time with the rising numbers. The door to 2802 was decorated with balloons and a happy birthday banner. I could hear music and laughter from inside. I took a deep breath and rang the bell. The door opened. A girl I didn't recognize stared at me. Can I help you? I'm Ethan, a friend of Chloe's. Oh, her eyes lit up. Chloe mentioned you. Come in. A dozen heads turned as I walked into the living room. Some faces were familiar. Lily, Alex, Director Lisa. But Chloe was nowhere to be seen. She's on the balcony, Lily whispered, pointing. I made my way through the crowd and slid open the glass door. On the balcony, Chloe stood with her back to me, leaning against the railing and looking out at the river. The night wind rustled her hair, and the moonlight traced her slender silhouette. Happy birthday, I said. She spun around, nearly dropping her wine glass. What are you doing here? Chloe's face flushed, Lily in her big mouth. We stood side by side in silence. A river cruised past below, its lights glittering on the dark water. Your speech was brilliant, she finally said. Congratulations. Stardust AI has a lot of potential. Thank you. I hear the Vance Corporation is interested in investing. Yes, I'm impressed with your technology. She paused. But if it makes you uncomfortable. It doesn't, I said, turning to face her. Business is business. Personal is personal. A flicker of disappointment crossed her eyes. Right, of course. I heard you started a music foundation. Yes, we fund music education in underserved communities, she said softly. It's something my mother always wanted to do. Ethan, Chloe asked suddenly, do you still hate me? I never hated you. Then why didn't you contact me for 3 years? I looked out at the city lights. Because the contract was over. Chloe's hand tightened on the railing. That damn contract. I never took it seriously, but I did, I said softly. It was the only legitimate reason I had to be near you. She looked up sharply, her eyes shimmering in the moonlight. And now? What reason do you have to be near me now? I didn't get to answer. A commotion erupted from the living room. Lily threw open the door. Chloe, you have to see this. We went back inside. Everyone was gathered around the TV. A live concert was being broadcast. The world-renowned pianist Lang Lang was on stage. But instead of playing, he was speaking into a microphone, his expression serious. Next, I would like to play a special recording for all of you, he said. This is a request from my dear friend, the talented pianist, Miss Chloe Vance. The live audience gasped. The camera panned across their shocked faces. Chloe, standing next to me, turned pale. I didn't. The recording began. It was Chloe's voice. Good evening, everyone. I'm Chloe. 3 years ago today, someone asked me what my favorite piece to play was. I told them it was Mariage d'Amour. What I didn't tell him was that the piece reminds me of my mother, and it also reminds me of him. Everyone in the living room turned to look at us. Chloe's hand gripped my sleeve, trembling. That person might be watching this concert right now. The recording continued. If he can hear this, I want to tell him, I'm sorry. For everything. And I've been waiting for you to come back. The recording ended. The concert hall erupted in applause and whistles. Lang Lang smiled. Miss Chloe Vance, I hope he heard you. The TV was muted. The living room was silent. All eyes were on us. Chloe's face was so red it looked like it was about to catch fire. That's not. I didn't mean for her. She stammered. I just agreed to record a birthday message for Lang Lang. I had no idea he was going to. So it's true. Alex couldn't help but ask. The him is Ethan. Chloe looked at me, her eyes filled with panic and a desperate plea. The proud princess from 3 years ago was gone, replaced by a flustered girl who looked like she'd been caught with her hand in the cookie jar. I stepped forward and took her hand. Let's talk outside. Amid the whoops and hollers of her friends, I pulled Chloe out of the apartment. The moment the elevator doors closed, she snatched her hand away. What are you doing? Now everyone knows. Knows what? I pressed the button for the ground floor. That the great Chloe Vance finally learned how to apologize. I did not apologize. That was. She stomped her foot in frustration. That recording was made 3 months ago. I didn't know he was going to play it tonight. The elevator reached the ground floor. I pulled her through the lobby and into the garden. The June cherry blossoms were long gone, replaced by lush green leaves. Where are you taking me? Chloe demanded. Somewhere quiet, I said, letting go of her. Unless you'd rather go back and face the gossip squad. She immediately shut up. We walked down a path to the largest cherry tree, its bench covered in fallen petals. Sit. I took off my suit jacket and laid it on the bench. Chloe hesitated, then carefully sat down. What do you want to talk about? First, tell me, why mariage d'amour? She looked down, fiddling with the hem of her dress. Because it was my mother's favorite. She said she wanted me to play it at my wedding. Her voice grew softer, but she didn't live to see that day. I took out my phone and played an audio file. The familiar melody of Mariage d'amour filled the air, the version Chloe had played in the practice room 3 years ago. You still have it, she said, looking up in surprise. I never deleted it. I switched to my photos, showing her the Chloe memo. The last entry had been added yesterday. Birthday, June 20. Prefers white roses to red. Chloe's eyes widened. You're still keeping notes. Old habits die hard, I said, putting my phone away. Just like you're in the habit of taking your coffee with 1 cream and no sugar, rubbing your fingers before you play the piano, biting your lip when you're angry. Stop, she cut me off, her voice trembling. Ethan, what is this? You're the one who left without a word 3 years ago. Now you come back and start all this. I came back because Stardust needs this market, I said, looking her straight in the eye. But I came to see you because I wanted to see you. Chloe's breathing quickened. Why? Because the contract is over. What? The countdown. Remember? I showed her my phone's wallpaper. 0 years, 0 months, 0 days until contract ends. Now, we're equals. No contract, no employment. Just Ethan and Chloe. The moonlight filtered through the leaves, casting dappled shadows on her face. A single tear rolled down her cheek, then another and another. I'm sorry, she choked out. For what I said in the practice room that day. For everything. I shouldn't have called you a contract employee. I shouldn't have. Chill.